Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 15th day of January 2025. Welcome to our show today. We have Liberty Essentials on first with Bill Mohr, Karen the Riveter, and Ralph the IT guy. And then after that, Sheriff Mack is going to be coming on. I had some very interesting conversations yesterday as I was going through the coming events in the next, this week's events. And I have some grave concerns. Let's put it that way. And I think we need to talk about some of these things because we should. A lot of people want to shut you down. You didn't go along to get along. You're a disruptor. You're a problem, Brandenburg. Shut up and sit down. I can't do it. It's impossible for me. It is totally impossible. We have to ask those difficult questions and sometimes go back to the basics of what should be done in order to right what is wrong. And also, I think that sometimes not going with the sheeples or going with the herd, even if it seems like it's the right thing, you have to follow your heart and listen to God's voice rather than run right in. And with that said, I'm going to bring everybody on and I'll tell you what we're talking about here. Morning, guys. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's Wednesday. I woke up with a triple bypass this morning. You know that, Donna?
Triple bypass?
A triple bypass. Most certainly did. I bypassed the hospital, the morgue, and the cemetery.
Great dad joke. That's great. I love it. So we're going to talk about this morning a little bit. And it's funny because I'll get up and I'll say, okay, what do you want to talk about? And almost every week, Bill and I have not talked. We've not said two words and we're thinking in the same direction, which is kind of shocking.
No, it's not.
Well, it kind of is, when you wake up, it's so consistent. I mean, we're all friends. I get that. But the crazy, there's no coincidences. And all I have to say is it's got to be God Almighty directing our paths and telling us what to do. Because you couldn't have that much coincidence and have it, still stand. So this morning and this week, I got to tell everybody I've been really struggling with going to DC. I've got invites to like everything and tickets to most things or reservations and that sort of thing. However, this week, the more that it's gone on, the more I feel convicted that this is a bad idea. And I'll tell you why. The number one reason is that President Trump, the people's choice, the rightful president of the United States, had 2 assassination attempts on him during Carter's funeral. And if that's not bad enough, we're going into another public inauguration, which I fundamentally believe is a bad idea. And the reason being is that we're supposed to be standing together as Americans, all of us together. And if one of us can't do it, none of us should do it, or the system needs to change. We know that we can have a public broadcast of a private inauguration, that everybody would have the same chance to see the same person, the ability to stand there together. And we can see it on media where he's not being put in jeopardy. And I really believe that. The other thing is that the amount of taxpayers' dollars being spent on this is not where we should be right now, because there's so many people that are struggling. Every single security person there, their salary it's incredible. It's about $400,000. And I'm sure that there's some that get paid less and some more. Police are showing up. How well did that work last time? Half the police were fakes. And so it smells like another Fedsurrection. They've got all the roads in DC closed down. Once you're in, you're in. Now, am I afraid of that? No, I'm too stupid to be afraid. I don't have that fear factor in me. It's more of a evaluate things on face value and make a good decision at the time. I believe with the amount of people that are there, the amount of potential risks that are there to the people, I really believe that the people, a good leader would say, you know what, we're going to do a private inauguration. I want you to stay home with your families and grow strong families at home. I'm here. We're going to be doing the right thing. We're fighting for you, and we're going to work within 30 seconds of my hand on that Bible and swearing in. And this is what we're going to do. Every single person's going to get a job. You have to work. You can't just stand here anymore and watch things happen. We're going to do this together, and it's going to be clear instructions. It's going to go back to nullification. We're going to wipe away everything that's taken you hostage and put your families at risk. That's what needs to be done.
I agree.
Yeah, there's no sense in literally wasting the people's money on all this pomp and show that they continually put up. It's another one of those things that everybody's hoping will fall under the new Department of Government Efficiency, right? This should be one of those. If we're going to set this department up and it's actually going to act proper and look for these things, here's number one, guys, front and center. Number one, look at the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are wasted on this pomp for an inauguration address.
Oh, Bill, it's in the millions. It's in the millions.
It probably is. I don't know the number. I think hundreds of thousands yet, and that's just insane money to me. Millions is beyond my comprehension when it comes to handling finances.
Well, just the amount of money that goes into even moving the president around is extraordinary.
Well,
I had made up my mind as governor of Michigan. I was going to absolutely sit in one place because the moving around is way too much money for that, and address people the same way we're doing it on BNN, where people can tune in and they can talk and they can write me notes and they can communicate right then and there, so that everybody has the same access. And let me tell you how all of the money stuff works, because I've been a part of it enough to know there are some very, very good people that are working through these organizations, because that's what's familiar to us. And this is the way that it's been run. But all of these balls are money and fundraisers. When are we going to stop? It's like the money's got to get out of politics. We have to get in there, do the work. People stand around and they talk and they talk and they talk and they leave. And nobody has a job leaving there except for to make sure you show up for the next event with your checkbook in hand. This is not helping you guys. This is not helping our communities. This is not helpful to a damn thing. And it should be really soberly evaluated for exactly what it is, because unless we're willing to stand, especially those of us who are Christians, we are held to a higher standard. We are held to the standard to be the body of Christ here and to do the right thing. And when God asks us to step up, pick me. First thing, pick me. I'll go. Tell me what you want me to do clearly. If God wants me to go and be in DC and be helpful, I'm willing to do that. I've done plenty of that with standing with people that I really despise. I really despise, just because of their lack of actual patriotism. I've also been able to stand with the people behind the scenes who are really, really good people. There's a mix there. It's a mix going on. And if I'm helpful there, then I'd go. And if that's the path for us to go, then I would go. However, I kind of feel like going to the inauguration is putting pressure on we the people, on President Trump, to show up and put on a show, instead of go have the private inauguration and let's get to work and give every one of us a job. Not just those people who have been appointed to these positions, who probably paid a lot of money to get there, because there's the money game is always in play. There should be no money changing hands for getting a position or getting favor in that administration. When I look at how Doge is set up, I'm going to tell you right now, not a fan at this moment in time. And I'm going to say the unpopular things that nobody wants to hear. Not a fan. And I'll tell you why. They're all pushing those H-1B visas. That's indentured servitude. And I have a big freaking problem with that. I have a huge problem with not just going in there and saying, well, we're going to cut a few of jobs and this, that, and the other thing. Slash the entire departments. Nullify until, and then you're going to have to prosecute. So the prosecution has to happen too for the people that participated in this. So I guess I called a few people yesterday. Sheriff Mack, all of a sudden I realized he was speaking out on it like I am, and I called him, and he's going to be on at 10 o'clock because I said, I think I'm like the only person who is publicly speaking about it and has for about a week and a half that this is a really bad idea, super bad idea. After the traitor Carter's funeral, we shouldn't be having state funerals. Dump him in a traitor's hole. That's it. He should be in a traitor's grave for what he did to the United States, and so should all of them. And why are we paying our tax dollars to fund the public this kind of thing? It looks like a coronation of a king. And if that's what they think that the United States, what we the people want, we're in big trouble, because that means we have failed to hold the line and have the integrity and honesty to stand for each other and not have a protected class of people that run around, woohoo, all dressed up and such. Give me my flannel shirt, my jeans, and my cowboy boots, and let's get to work. That's what needs to happen, every single one of us. And those that need that entertainment, get out of the way. Go play your arcade games. Go do what you need to do. Go sit there and have your drunk parties or whatever it is, and that's fine. Go do what you need to do. But those of us that want to leave there with a to-do list that's beastly, that looks unovercomable. There's so much on it that we'll just say, perfect. If I have to stay up, and not sleep to get this done, if the president asked me to do it, I would do it. If we were asked to do something that was to right the United States, we have to be the ones stepping up to do this and not ask them to give us a freaking show.
Well, I said,
go ahead, Karen.
Like I said before the show, what you're saying also goes right in hand with what I was writing about on Telegram yesterday. That we have to be willing to stand up against anybody, and that includes even the great President Trump, even the idea of Trump. Is he fallible? Yes. Does he say things that prompt us or do things that prompt us to look into things further and challenge him? Absolutely. You've heard him at a rally once say something positive about the vaccine, and the crowd kind of was like, what? Wait, like they were cheering the whole time until then, and then they started to boo a little bit, and the next time he brought up that topic, everybody was booing, because I think we're being trained to stand up and say, hey, you know what, Zuckerberg, he may have good points, he may have bad points, maybe he was forced, we don't know the whole story. Do we have justice yet for the crimes that he did against the people of America? No, we don't have that justice. Is he my hero for making some good decisions now? Absolutely not. Is he forgiven? Absolutely not. We have to be willing to not just follow the crowd and go with the party that we have assigned ourselves to and say, well, that's the Republican candidate, I guess we'll have to go with him again. No, you have every right and you have a duty and obligation to speak up and say, this isn't the right thing to do. He's got a billion different, I'm exaggerating, a lot of different events he's supposed to be doing in that first day. I remember when he said the first day, I'm going to sign a bunch of executive orders. That's really all he needs to be doing. He can do a lot of work on the first day and turn our country around. He doesn't need to go to a ball and another ball and another ball with a bunch of rich people who donated a whole bunch of money to his campaigning, etc. I sure didn't get a ticket to any one of those activities. And do I want to go to DC? No. On January 6th, last time around, I questioned anybody going because I said, that's a foreign land. And by the way, they want to become the 51st state now. That was news yesterday.
They've been wanting
That's
that for a long time.
yeah, that's just it come out again because I think we're supposed to do what Donna's doing. Are there a whole bunch of people saying this loudly? Not yet, but maybe over the weekend we'll hear a lot more people saying enough is enough. Just do the job. We don't need the pomp and circumstance. We love you. We don't even need a rally. Just get there safe. Just get across the finish line, will you?
And then the first thing you do, cut loose a beast level accountability effort, we'll call it that way, and start arresting these people who committed treason. We will never, ever right this nation until we don't go after those people that refuse to defend the original Constitution, not the one that's been damaged by their unconstitutional and unlawful efforts to destroy it through acts, through treaties, and all of this stuff. Get in there and restore this nation and the structure therein, and make it a lawful nation. And anyone that participated in this, that are sitting in the seats, that violated their oath of office, it's time to make some one-way trips to Gitmo, and we're done. We are going to have, you can't have a company, okay? If you have systemic corruption in a company, let's just say it's a bank where you put all your money and you trust these people to manage it, which they don't. We've got the central banking fiat currency now. They've already lied to us about that. So it's one of those kind of sort of examples. But you trust certain things in your life and you trust them to be managed correctly. What if you found out that the bank or where your retirement was being held had systemic corruption, and people were literally doing actually what they're doing right now? They're downvaluing your dollars by taking them or printing more. That's what they're doing in DC. But when we put it down into a local level like a bank, everybody can realize what I'm talking about. What if they're manipulating the market on your house, and all of a sudden the value of your house looks like it's going up, but it really isn't. It's actually going down because everything is there for it's a show, and it's a show to control us. Be uncontrollable. Be unwavering. Step up when nobody else will do what you see. You have to follow what God puts in your heart. They're saying that we got to be behind the Republican Party. How are you going to do that when there's so much corruption in it? Has it worked so far? Hasn't. And it's like, oh, split the vote. They split the vote because you got no choice. They put the people up. If you see somebody that's getting up there to run on it, guaranteed you got Pete Hoekstra, who's a traitor, who signed the Patriot Act twice, not once, but twice.
Hey, when you vote for the lesser of two evils, you're still voting for evil.
Yeah. So I wanted to take a minute this morning. I'm going to do a little bit of reading here, so it may seem boring. And a lot of people are going to say, what in the world are you talking about? Because this doesn't have anything to do with what you're discussing right now. But if you stick with it, you'll find the key points, and you'll find that little golden thread that weaves through this whole thing. All right. So I have in front of me the New York Sons of Liberty resolutions on tea. All right. Everybody should be familiar with this. Everybody understands the Boston Tea Party, at least in part. And some may say, well, this has nothing to do with what you're talking about. But we're going to get to the end, and I'm gonna tie this all together because it's really cool.
Did you put the link in the private chat so I can pull it up?
No, I'm not one of those electronic guys so much. I always forget about stuff like that.
Where do I look for it? You tell me and I'll pull it up, and then you keep reading.
I don't know where you look for it, to be honest with you.
What is it?
New York Sons of Liberty resolution on tea. That would have been 1773. If I find it, I'll put the link up here.
All right, I'll find it.
Okay. But nonetheless, everybody should be familiar with the Stamp Act as well. So in May 1773, the East India Company was permitted to export tea directly to the American colonies, free from all duties except a 3-penny tax payable in America. Right. The company disposed of its enormous quantities of teas that it couldn't sell in England due to its high cost through its agents who were protected by the British government, mind you. This essentially gave a monopoly on the tea business to the East India Company in the colonies. Plus, the British Parliament had enacted a 3 pence per pound tax on the tea delivered to the colonies. This was a tax which the colonies had no legislative voice. It wasn't the amount of the tax that angered the colonists as much as it was the taxation without representation. The monopoly on tea that had been imposed on the colonies against their will is what had angered them. In Charleston, the tea was allowed to enter but was placed in government warehouses. In Philadelphia, New York, and elsewhere, ships bearing tea were forced to turn back. In Boston, the attempt to land tea led the famous Boston Tea Party on December 16, 1773. The tea tax and monopoly was a major stepping stone leading up to the American Revolution. So this is what the Sons of Liberty had to say about this, right? And this was to bind all the people together in action, not in words. They said, and you have to go back to the beginning of it. There's like, I don't know, a long preface to it before the actual resolve. But they said it is essential to the freedom and security of a free people that no taxes be imposed upon them by their own consent, but by their own consent or their representatives. For what property have they that which another may by right take when he pleases to himself? The former is the undoubted right of Englishmen, to secure which they expend millions and sacrifice the lives of thousands. And yet, to the astonishment of all the world and the grief of America, the Commons of Great Britain, after the repeal of the memorable and detestable Stamp Act, reassumed the power of imposing taxes on the American colonies and insisting on it as a necessary badge of parliamentary supremacy. Passed a bill in the 7th year of his present majesty's reign, imposing duties on all glass, painters' colors, papers, teas, that should, after the 20th of November, 1767, be imported from Great Britain into any colony or plantation in America. This bill, after the concurrence of the Lords, obtained the royal assent, and thus they who from time immemorable have exercised the right of giving to or withholding from the crown their aids and subsidies, according to their own free will and pleasure, signified by the representatives in Parliament, do by the act in question deny us, their brethren in America, the enjoyment of the same right. As this denial and the execution of the act involves our slavery and would sap the foundation of our freedom, whereby we should become slaves to our brethren and fellow subjects, born to no greater stock of freedom than the Americans, the merchants and inhabitants of this city, in conjunction with the merchants and inhabitants of the ancient American colonies, entered into an agreement to decline a part of their commerce with Great Britain until the above-mentioned act should be totally repealed. We're going to skip down now to the resolved. So this was sent out to try to bind all the people to one action, right? We talked about this whole the funding before in many other shows of how things are funded and how this all has to stop, right? So their first resolve, they say, whatever shall aid or abet or in any manner assist in the introduction of tea from any place whatsoever into this colony, while it is subject by a British act to Parliament to the payment of a duty for the purpose of raising a revenue in America, he shall be deemed an enemy to the liberties of America. Number one.
I cannot believe how beautifully this fits into what we were just talking about. It's the same thing.
Yep. Enemies of America, right? Donna, you said it. If you're not going to do this, get out of the way so other people can. Okay. That's kind of what they're saying here. The second resolve, that whoever shall be aiding or assisting in the landing or carting of such tea from any ship, vessel, or shall hire any house, storehouse, or cellar in any place whatsoever to deposit the tea, subject to a duty as aforesaid, he shall be deemed an enemy to the liberties of America. Third resolve, whoever shall sell, buy, or in any manner contribute to the sale or purchase of tea, subject to a duty as aforesaid, or shall aid or abet in transporting such tea by land or water from this city until the 7th George III, Chapter 46, commonly called the Revenue Act, shall be totally and clearly repealed, he shall be deemed an enemy to the liberties of America. Fourth resolve, that whether the duties on tea imposed by this act be paid in Great Britain or in America, our liberties are equally affected. Fifth resolved, that whoever shall transgress in any of these resolutions, we will not deal with or employ or have any connection with him. This was a stand of the Sons of Liberties back then. This was a simple, small tax, but they were being denied their liberties as free men, and the tax was being used for unlawful purposes. And they came out and flat out said, anybody in these colonies who supports this or defends it or helps in any way to promote it, you are now an enemy to our liberties, right? Not individual liberties, but liberties of America as a whole, those granted to us by right by the Creator, as laid out in the Declaration of Independence that they later wrote. And that if any do such things, we're not going to deal with them, we're not going to give them employment, and we're going to have zero connection with them, thus cutting them off from being able to promote such things, right? We've all said it before. If you want to promote change and promote restoration, you have to quit participating in their games. It's as simple as that. All of these little things, out of convenience for the most part, that we participate in is helping to promote, establish, and abet all of these unlawful and unconstitutional acts that they've been promoting, right? Because they're using our money, not their money, they're using our money to fund all of this. So we have to quit participating in any unlawful system and call all of our brothers and sisters around this great nation and the state and our counties and our townships to do the exact same thing. That is one of the most important parts to restoring America, is quit participating in unlawfulness, right? Now I wanted to touch on one more thing, because I got an email from a friend, and I'm glad to call him a friend. It's one of which you all know. And I wanted to quote just a couple things in a response that I had gotten, because this fits right in with the same thing. And I find it very simple and very profound at the same time of how this is laid out. All right. Now, the subject matter is kind of irrelevant, but the purpose of what was being said fits into this. All right. He had said, the reason why I focus so much on the funding, that's all the funding of these unconstitutional programs and the funding of all the propaganda that's being pushed and promoted in our public sector. He says, the reason why I focus so much on the funding is that our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other, said John Adams, our second president. He said, I believe that the current majority of Americans as a whole are neither moral nor religious. And much of that is due to the indoctrination being perpetrated upon us, such that only the strong of will seem to be standing against it. I don't see how we can ever get strong enough legislation passed to make substantial changes, or even a proper ruling on it being in the law, if we can't win back the minds of the people from the brainwashing, which is only allowed to continue because of the constant funding being poured into it. Same thing that the Sons of Liberty were dealing with, right? Educate the people, say, we're not going to tolerate this, and we're not going to deal with you if you're going to tolerate this. He says there are small battles to fight, sure, but the funding side of it would be the biggest death blow we could deal to the propaganda machine. And then it will likely take decades to renormalize people's thinkings before we can get the people to make the legislative changes that we need. But we have to stop manufacturing the ammunition to be delivered to our adversaries for them to fire against us. That is exactly correct, right? We're giving them strength to do what they're doing by not speaking out against it and continuing to participate in it. He says we have an enemy sowing weeds in our wheat fields. It's it's a battle of attrition of minds, and we're losing. We have neither a moral nor religious people, and we have to fix that first. But the only way out of this culture and government mess we're in is to scrap the idea of a representative form of government entirely and pray for a monarchy with a sane monarch. I agree. You have one of two ways to do this. He says, because if the government is to be a representation of the people and the people currently suck, then all we have is a self-perpetuating, sucky government, which we currently see. If we can eliminate the self-perpetuating part of that so that we can heal the people, perhaps we stand a chance to heal the government. And the propaganda is not primarily coming from our government itself. It's coming from 501c, which suckle at the teat of the government. If it was the government itself, we might be able to fix the propaganda through direct legislative action. I'd love nothing more than to see the destruction of all these 501cs due to having to fire all their staff from being defunded, because there's no way they can sustain on willing donations. And there's also no way that the bad ones will continue to exist on volunteer staff alone. The only way they are allowed to continue their actions promoting the moral destruction of our country is because all of the money which is seen stolen from us by our government through the threat of violence. The whole 501c system needs to be gone, including the exemptions for churches. Because of the whole, the true Christian church would survive, buildings or not, whereas the corrupt propaganda organizations would not. I can touch on that to say, churches, you are already exempt in our constitutions from any fines, fees, or taxes based on the government, because the government has no business in the church. That was made very clear in our First Amendment. Oh, where did I leave off? Oh, look at how Planned Parenthood started closing facilities as soon as they couldn't profit off of abortions. And it brought to light for even the most ignorant to see that their advertised mission of giving out free birth control was unsustainable when not funded by the money they were making from abortions, and their entire business plan revolved around murdering babies. Now, just imagine if all of that funding for everything dried up. The abortions, pride events, transgender, miseducation, indoctrination of our children, human trafficking, all in the name of helping people, all of it. Get rid of the money that drives these organizations, and I think we'd quickly start to see a lot of this exposed for the public to see what they already know it is. The true intentions would not be able to be hidden any longer. And regarding lawfulness, right, being able to actually execute the law as the president is required to do through the militia, the people, right? He says to address the lack of being able to punish anyone for their crimes, the proper protocol laid out in Deuteronomy, and therefore carrying into the New Testament and into our modern judicial system, is that the death penalty is not appropriate without at least 2 witnesses. And conviction can only happen with at least 1 witness, and that the witnesses are supposed to be the first to punish, right? Hence the accuser being the first to throw a stone. And why in our modern judicial process, defendants need to be able to face your accuser. Find that in our Constitution and all throughout our law. They have to be confident enough in their accusation to stand in trial against the accused, and are throwing the modern legal version of the first stone in our courtroom. They have extended that to include a jury box of 12, who, in my opinion, take on the role of the judge as far as the biblical system goes. And that's exactly correct. A judge of your peers, right? And that's part of where I see the problem of unforceability right now, and why I think the first step is to defund the curtail of propaganda. Because in our modern judicial system, even if you manage to get a prosecutor who would bring legal action against people violating the law in this way, how in the world do you think they'd ever get a jury who would convict them with all the brainwashing we have? That's a dangerous game to play without first laying the groundwork with the people and eliminating the propaganda. because otherwise you could very easily have a jury nullification situation and you would lose all legal ground forever. And then you've also got the prevalence of corrupt judges who would happily lead the jury or force their opinion on the court. As you quoted, the destruction of morality renders the power of government invalid. A quote from the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania in 1850. And then you've also got the prevalence of corrupt judges who would, but better to have it on the books regarding law on the books in reserve to be used later than to go on the attack with a broken weapon. Not saying don't educate good people on the existence of it, just that it's effectively useless to us right now because trying to use it would be counterproductive. As I see it, we're better off letting the law slumber until such time as it's appropriate to use. We have to fix the morality of the people first, he says. I think, frankly, the utter hopelessness everyone's feeling right now is working in our favor in that regard. Bibles have been selling in record numbers lately and are trending upward, the likes of which we haven't seen in decades. People are finally getting past the worship of self and realizing the self-destructive nature of it and turning to God on their own. We're turning the tide, or we're beginning to turn the tide in battle, but we must be relentless. We're fighting decades, indeed in some ways centuries, and in other ways millennia of moral decay and backsliding, and we're starting to win. So Shizaki says, it's a glorious time to be in this battle. Like I said, this was a response to it by a friend of mine, and I appreciate the response. He's absolutely right in the majority of it. We can't allow our law to continually be degraded, yet we really have no recourse in our system of justice, our injustice system, to promote righteous judgment through the law against criminals, right? Against everything that we talk about on this show. The judicial system occasionally will get it right, but in the larger battles, they leave off judgment, right? You look back to the Pharisees, right? When Christ was talking to the Pharisees, he was saying, you guys tithe all manner of mint and rue, right? But you leave off the weightier matters of the law because they didn't want to deal with it. They wanted to be the people's choice, the ones that the people would respect and the ones that they can continually rule over by their statutes they were putting up in place of God's law. Put up man's law in place of God's law, you end up being ruled by men and tyranny. And it's no different than we see today. Our justice system, they can get some of the little things right, but when it comes to the weightier matters of the law, things that are deemed essential through the Old Testament Torah and our common law here in this nation, they seem to leave out and are incapable of ruling properly on it, because they don't know it. They don't know the foundation. They don't know the back history of where this all came from or why that guardrail was put in place for the American people not to cross. And so by leaving that off, we completely leave out justice. And we leave the people to complain about it, yet not have a solution to promote it. And I'm here to tell you the solution is within the people the whole time, because the judicial system is the servant of the people. The servant of the law that the people have given to the government, right? So the judicial system has no right to master or rule over the people if it was established by them in the first place, which is why we have numerous checks across our judicial system, whether you start in a circuit court and move up to a district court, into a state Supreme Court, into a U.S. Supreme Court, right? You can always take it up one level at a time. However, it seems to be that the deeper you go in levels, the deeper the corruption is. And that's designed with a purpose that the people will fail to do their due diligence and, as this man said, be relentless in the matter, because they see that as you reach federal level, it's so corrupt you can't get justice out of it. But he is absolutely correct in that it all starts with the education of the people. Hosea makes it very clear, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. We say it numerous times on this show. And all throughout history, nations are destroyed because the people sit back and fail to be knowledgeable about the foundation and their duties within their nation. And as it's been said over history, every government has the nation that it deserves. And also in this government, that our representative form of government is a miniature representation of the people at large, right? What we see in government happens at an individual heart level basis of the people as a whole. It's whatever the people will tolerate in their own lives, their own local communities, their own church, right? Evangelical Christians, not even jellyfish Christians. What you tolerate in your own church is a representation of what you're going to tolerate in government. Because if we're not willing to stand on the premise and the standard that we've set forth in our own local areas, then there's no way any individual is going to stand at a federal level and promote righteousness and judgment in the gates of our federal level that our liberties can be protected. So
like
starting
that, evangelifish Christians, I've never heard that before.
Evangelifish, yeah, there's a lot of those. Churchians and churchianity, evangelifish. That's kind of terms that I've been using more and more lately because you see it happening. But starting out with T, you saw that the simple thing like a small itty bitty tax, right? That they could have just laid down because it wouldn't have affected them really as a whole. The small tax like that, stripping them of their representation power in the matter and not having a say against it, they were willing to stand either as a whole or fall as a whole on that one principle. And yet we have so many little taxes that are being taken by the people, right? Willingly taken by the people, mind you, because a lot of it, including the entire IRS, is a volunteer system. It's not mandated to the people, let alone is it codified in law. They have their own policies that they try to regulate the people into participating with this whole income tax and IRS system, right? You can go in and you can read it if you want to read the tax code. I don't have time to read the whole thing, but I've read a lot of it. And the people continually to participate in it, making them willing accomplices to anything that the funding goes to, right? You want to stop it? You got to understand, you got to be knowledgeable enough to quit participating in it. And it's going to take sacrifice. You're going to lose friends and family over it. You're going to potentially spend years in the injustice system trying to fight it. But we have to be relentless, as this man says. You cannot back down for a moment. You have to keep the fire on. Otherwise, the water's going to cool down and the frog's going to get comfortable again, right? Everybody knows that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to keep the heat on these guys. And we have to be knowledgeable and be willing to educate our fellow brethren on how to deal with this lawfully. I see my camera. I feel like I'm starting to get shorter and shorter. My camera keeps falling. So I'm going to adjust that.
Adjust the camera.
I think this comes back to the letter that you were reading. And also I see a lot of Bible in here, so I'm glad you touched on that. I was reading in Isaiah 1, starting at 16 and going at least through verse 20. I posted it on my Telegram. Basically, the concept is, first you have to seek knowledge, as you just said. Then you have to recognize where you've messed up. You have to acknowledge and accept that you've screwed up. And then you have to take action. And I think everyone is in a different stage here. In the letter, that's a declaration of independence in a sense. It's just like the declaration that came before the Declaration of Independence. Hey, we don't like what has been done to us. We don't want anybody else to participate. And the biblical concept, put evil away from you, put this thing away from you so that you can stand apart from. That's in that letter. Unless you want to be considered an enemy, participate with the enemy. If you do participate with the enemy, and here's what that looks like, these are the terms. If you do, you will be considered an enemy. Where it falls a little bit short is, this is what's going to happen to you. But I think that's probably in writing elsewhere, or they can kind of read between the lines. There's no, this is the law and this is the punishment for the law part in that letter. But it's firm enough in its conviction to declare you're either with us or you're against us.
No, I guess I would disagree with that in that there's no action, because they are telling people, they're warning people that we will boycott your business. And that, if you participate in any of these activities, that final resolve on there was that they would not do business with the people that were doing this anymore because they were considered enemies.
True.
And I think that's a perfectly valid lesson to take into modern times too, and we see this a lot with a lot of the businesses, particularly that did really terrible things as the enforcement arm of unlawful orders during COVID. And that one really changed a lot of my shopping habits, because I now shop at different stores that did not participate in that, and have since been boycotting stores that I previously shopped at, such as Menards. I used to love shopping there because I knew it was, at its core, a family-owned business, but I don't shop there anymore. And, we have the power of the pocketbook in a certain sense there to make changes in policy on a business level that can then be reflected in other areas of life.
When you see them capitulating to be the enforcement arm of the government, any of these businesses that capitulated and forced their patronage to do certain behaviors so they couldn't shop there, if you start looking up the ownership chain of command there to see where it falls, they're all part of this corporate takeover, this corporatocracy of the United States. Most of it leads back to large corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street Capital, and that sort of thing, which means they're getting funding, but they're also the funding mechanism. And as soon as they were designated to have the rights of personage, we had a big problem, because now, and it's going to become a bigger problem unless we step up and stop it, because what are the rights of a person? Think about that. Rights of person means that you can direct the government, you can vote, you can do all those things. They're doing it through money. The money that is funding our politics and our government is absolutely criminal.
Yep, that is one of the root causes for why they can continue to do it. The other one is that the people participate in it, right? Both of them go hand in hand. And that's not the only declaration that our forefathers put before them, where they would call out their own brothers and say, "Hey, we're not going to deal with you if you're willing to deal with this." Right? There are several other ones just like that. But it's important, and just like Ralph had said, it is important that when we see the participation in this matter, in anything, right? Pick your topic. When you see somebody participating in that, whether it be individual corporation or anything, and yet you still continue to fund that, that starts to become a problem, because you're still participating in it by giving them money, right? And I get it. There are some things that you just can't get out of unless we're just willing to go completely off grid, which I'm all for, by the way. But then I wouldn't be able to do stuff like I've been called to do by many people. You can go completely off grid and quit participating altogether, but that doesn't help solve the problem for the brothers that are still in it. Right. Mm-hmm. So you got to look at both sides of it to be able to say they're both equally important. And, praise God, we have people on both ends that are willing to take up one or the other, and sometimes both.
Yeah.
Because I'll admit there are some places that I have to go to just because of the work that I do. There are some places that I have to go to because there's no other option available, right? And because of that, in a small way, I still have to participate in this doggone system that I talk about all the time. If I find a way out of that, I'd love it, right? But I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. There are so many different ways we can fight, and this is just one example of it. I know you're going to have Sheriff Mack on here soon, Donna, and Sheriff Mack has spoken out on a lot of this as well. One thing I hope he talks about is a reference with the militia power, the people's power, right? Because he has been very outspoken with that as well. And one of the things that you had sent me, just a quick note on this, regarding the ability and the duty of the people to get involved, right? We all know the Declaration of Independence. We know at the bottom of it, all the people that were in favor of it, they all in unison, not just sent it to the king, but put their name on it, right? They signed their death warrant to the king for all practical purposes. You had sent me something yesterday, I think it was, which was a people's grand jury case from 2019, calling out judges and such. And I've seen a lot of these come through. I know a lot of people that have done it. But one of the things that I see the people's grand jury fail on, and you can read about grand jury in our U.S. Constitution, right? It is our fourth branch of government, separate from the other three, right? The people's duty to do so. One thing that I see fail on is there's no executable force, right? The government only exists by force. They can only try to force the people to do what it wants, and the people can either choose to submit to it or to rebel righteously against it. So when you have a document that calls out crimes, calls out individuals, calls for justice, and you send it to the corrupt trying to seek the justice, you know it's not going to happen. And I'm sure all of these grand jury cases know that's not going to happen because they've all been ignored at the federal level, and for the most part, the state levels as well. So when you do that with no enforceable action, the only thing you're doing is promoting the knowledge side of it, if you can get it out in the public sector for people to understand. What we need to do, and we need to start doing, is when we're going to call this out, we have to be willing to stamp our approval on it and set our name and affix our own personal seal to it and say, this is wrong. Here's why. Here's the list of infringements against the people or against the individual, a list of violation of rights, and then fix our seal to it and say, handle it or we will. Right? That is the part that our founding fathers knew all throughout the revolutionary period. They were all willing to sacrifice everything they had, right? Their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor in defense of it. And when I see things come across like that, and they call for just the execution of it from the corrupt people that they're sending it to, for the most part, you know nothing's going to happen with it because the people are not or cannot or are uneducated enough not to enforce it. So we have to make that stand, right? If there's a hill to die on, then you got to be willing to fix your name to that hill, right? If you're going to call it a hill to die on, and then we're going to play out in secret and not do that, you know, hello, Sunshine Patriot days. Hope to see you on the other side of the hill, but I got better things to do than to not deal with something. Everybody knows me. I fight on the local level, right? I can talk about issues on the federal level. I don't think there's any way to get in there currently, just because of how the system is tied down and how the people submit to it. And I really am not sure that there's a way to get in at the state level without a huge mass education of the people in a 2-year time frame.
Only way you can do it, honestly, you can make incremental changes. Okay, you can make some incremental changes by education and such. But I really think the only way that we're going to fix this system is if God steps in and the power grid, the communication grid goes down and the money system goes down. That sounds like a real harsh way to, because people are not ready to deal with this or what's coming. It is coming, but we should run into this with absolute joy and delight and say, let's do it. It's time. It's time. It is time. And the only way to do it, because people are too selfish to initiate it themselves, is for God Almighty just to tear this thing right down. And it's going to have to come from the hand of God for it to be complete enough, to absolutely be complete enough to, in fact, tear it down. I'm seeing Sheriff Mack backstage. You know what? If you guys can stay, I'm going to bring him on because I think he would enjoy this discussion. And you can ask some questions too, because I think we're kind of all on the same page on this. Morning, Sheriff Mack. How you doing?
Good morning, Donna. Thanks for having me.
Hey, great talking to you yesterday. You would have enjoyed the conversation before you got on, because we've been talking about what the historical significance is to standing against something which is not, which is patently un-American. And we've talked about the inauguration. We've talked about the things that if one of us can't do it, none of us should do it. And as well as the money flow from a lot of these fundraising organizations that are turning it into this pomp and circumstance, and it feels like a coronation of a king.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this. I'll just bring you up to speed. You know, we talked about it yesterday. The problem that I have is fundamentally, President Trump had 2 assassination attempts made on him at Carter's funeral. We should not have had a funeral for Carter. He's a traitor. Throw his sorry behind in a traitor's hole in a grave somewhere. He did no favors to the United States. He's a traitor. And our tax dollars should not be venerating traitors. And so my point being is that at this point in time, a private inauguration is a stand of all of us here. And let's get to work. Give us all a job. We don't need any more of this show stuff, but that's what you came into here. And Bill was quoting hang on, help me out here, Bill.
The New York Sons of Liberty resolutions on T.
Yeah.
The resolution on what?
On T. Basically saying anybody that participates with the unlawful activities of the Brits is considered an enemy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm more concerned about the live traitors than I am the ones that have passed away. I don't really care if they have a funeral for a former president or not. It's nothing to me. But what I want is to go after the current traitors.
Agreed.
Joe Biden should be investigated criminally. Kamala Harris should be investigated criminally. Alejandro Mayorkas, just about everybody in Congress. I mean, if the FBI would actually take seriously the delegated powers that do allow for investigations on traitors, they have 5 law enforcement authorities delegated by the states when we formed the federal government. One is treason. Second one is counterfeiting. Third one is felonies committed on the high seas. 4, they are required, Article 4, Section 4, shall protect our borders from invasion. They have done just the opposite. They have brought tens of thousands of international terrorists, jihadists, Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. They're all here. And not to mention the Tren de Agua gangs from Venezuela and the other cartels and gangs from Mexico. They have prepared our country for inside attacks that will, just as Trump said, will be the worst violence that we've ever seen. And even Trump has predicted whole-scale violence. And yet they want to go through this pomp and circumstance of an inauguration. Why? That doesn't benefit the American people. And we, as you alluded to, we need to get to work and to put Trump's family and his entire cabinet picks together in one geographical spot on January 20th. It's just nonsense. That is a security nightmare. It could really be horrible for America. And the people that do it would do the attacks don't even have to be there. But how do you provide security for 1 million people? And you would literally have to have one officer for every 2 people. And it's just an impossibility. And Trump himself has predicted wide-scale violence. So why would we not believe that? And why would he go through with a ceremony that is unnecessary and an extreme risk for him and his family? That's my point.
It's
I just
insanity.
think it's unnecessary.
It's insanity. And you know, I stand with you on this. It's like he should have a private inauguration and get to work and start rounding the traitors up and prosecute them. Start the flights to get Mohr and ship them off. I mean, we've got a clean house here because our house has been breached.
The thing is, Don, if you let these career politicians and these criminals in Washington D.C. get away with this, it's going to keep happening. You know, it is. And how about a simple one? Defund Planned Parenthood. The taxpayers of this country have been forced by the point of a gun and threatened with prison if we don't pay taxes to this private organization that provides no government service whatsoever. That is the epitome of corruption. It is criminal. It is illegal. And if they're going to give money to a private organization, $500 million a year, then why is my constitutional sheriff group not funded by the federal government? And I'll tell you why. Because it's illegal. Because I'm not part of the government, and neither is Planned Parenthood. And then Planned Parenthood takes tax dollars and then gives that back to pro-abortion politicians in Washington, D.C. and across the country. This is a racket. That is a violation of the RICO statutes. It is so corrupt. It is mafioso in its very nature. And we've got to abolish the IRS, abolish the Federal Reserve, and get America back where it's supposed to be with its constitutional foundation and the constitutional principles that we were supposed to be living all this whole time. If we don't do that, then why did we vote for this big red wave? You know, this red wave needs to get to work.
I agree. I'm hoping that within 30 seconds, he starts giving us all a job and there's a plan and says, I need everybody working and this is what we're going to do. America loves him. We would follow him if he told us to do something. We would back him. We would stand with him. We don't need the pomp and circumstance. We need action, and we need clear direction from a leader.
Well, you know, if you look at the map of the United States, 85% of the counties voted for Trump. 85%. That is absolutely humongous. That's astronomical. That's unbelievable. And so if we could get the sheriffs, you want somebody to go to work? Yes, the sheriffs need to go to work to help Tom Homan get these criminals and illegals out of our country. And they need to focus, just like Trump suggested, they need to focus on the low-lying fruit, the worst ones, the worst criminals in our country. Get the jihadists out of here, get them arrested, whatever you have to do, get the cartels out of here. So just don't deport them. If they need to get to prison, let's prosecute them and really make an example of what happens when you come to our country illegally and that you are already on the list of known terrorists. And so, yeah, we've got so much work to do, but we can't do it if we're baiting the terrorists to just come and hit us. You know, what do people really think they're doing here? There's tens of thousands of terrorists. There's tens of thousands of CCP warriors, Russian warriors and dissidents, and the cartels all working together. Not to mention the human trafficking and sexual exploitation of children. Where do you think the 400,000 children that are lost went? They got sold into sex slavery. And so you're so right. We have so much work to do, and trying to undo what these traitors did the last 4 years bringing all of these criminals into our country. They finally arrested 9 of the Tren de Agua gangs from Aurora trying to take over the apartment complexes, and they did take over them. They finally arrested those. It took about 5 months, 6 months. So I don't understand what the delay was there. It looked like the police were kind of afraid to go after them for a while, but I'm glad they did it. But we've got to do that to so many more, and it's just it is absolutely astonishing that we have governors and mayors saying we want more of this. We're going to protect these illegals that have come into our country. That is absolutely criminal. And if they do get in the way, Tom Homan, who promised the mayor of Colorado, if you get in our way, we will arrest you. And that's one thing we agree on. And he told the mayor that if you want to be arrested, we will, because it'll be obstruction of justice. Folks, we have got such a horrible situation in this country because of the Democrats and the Democrat Party and the Democrat leadership. And if Republicans do it too, they need to be held accountable just like anybody else. But I will tell you this. Sheriff Mark Lamb, who just left office, he already did a criminal investigation on Alejandro Mayorkas, and that investigation is sitting on the new county attorney's desk. And I'm going to call that county attorney. I called the old one, but he wouldn't do anything because he was all ticked off because he got voted out. This new one's a pretty good man, and I'm going to ask him, what are you going to do with that investigation that Sheriff Lamb conducted? That would be a great start to show that every sheriff in this country should be investigating the traitors in Washington, D.C.
I love Tom Homan. He's an amazing guy, and I really think he was a perfect guy to get this thing done, because I've listened to him speak, and I'm going to tell you, he is 100% pissed off about this situation, which is fantastic, because he's not going to put up with it.
Every American should be just like him. They should be ticked off, and they should be asking their sheriffs to help Tom Homan with the deportation plan.
What do you think about all of the treaties that have been signed to take down the United States, like the La Paz Treaty, which created about 130-mile neutral zone at our southern border? We need to have we need to address all of these things that were unconstitutionally placed and subverted the United States of America. How would you approach undoing all of that and educating the people about actually what happened?
Well,
to bring us to this point,
I hope that President Trump is going to address that and get it. He said he's going to have his pen ready on the 20th or the 21st and start undoing all of this that Biden tried to do. all these last minute jabs at Trump, and including even trying to keep the flags at half staff to for the inauguration.
That one he did undo.
Yeah, exactly. So there, he tried to do that, but he's done a lot worse. And Trump's going to have to undo a lot of what Biden has done, or whoever does his thinking and writing for him. Because I said this from the very beginning when people were asking for Biden to be investigated, even before the investigation came out about him, that he was incompetent. I said all along that he's not competent to stand trial, and he's not. But the rest of his staff is, and all those other traitors there, and there's many of them. And we have got to clean house. If we don't clean house, then when the pendulum starts going back the other way, it's all going to come back and with a vengeance. So way I see it, we only have a 2-year window on getting everything fixed, because usually in the midterm, the current president loses people in the House and Senate. So if we lose that, then it's going to be right back to where we were almost, except we still have the White House. So
I'm gonna
get to work.
I hate to interrupt you, but I'm going to disagree with you there. I think just about every single one of them needs to be removed from those seats because of the treason.
You didn't hear me say not. Yeah, I agree with you. But if we're going to clean house, they've got to get going because, I think it's historical fact what I just said about the pendulum swinging in midterms. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I am sick and tired of Republicans and Democrats. And quite honestly, if you look at the illegal spending, look at how many times the Republicans had a chance to defund Planned Parenthood, and they didn't do it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. The reason we have $36 trillion debt, the reason we still have an unconstitutional bunch of bullies and intimidators known as the IRS, a criminal organization that is a collection agency for the Federal Reserve. The reason we have all of that is because Democrats and Republicans. Now, I'll admit, Democrats are usually worse than Republicans, but it's still both unconstitutional and it's still corrupt. And both of them care more about their next election and their next donation check than they do about the American people or about individual liberty and civil rights.
Oh, I agree with you. And to your point, you made a really good point there on the fact that it's not just the person that we see out in front. It's their whole structure and organization that needs to be prosecuted for what they've done. It's easy to look at, say, Biden, which has been wonderful for everybody to fix the target on as far as for the guy that's really done the damage. But it's not just him. It's all the people around them and the entirety of the Congress, too, who allowed this stuff to happen. In Michigan, it's not just Whitmer, Nessel, Benson, and Brader sitting at the top that hijacked our elections. They did. They looked the other way. But it was the legislature that abdicated their role to stand in the way and stop it. So
well, look, if you want to talk about abdicating authority from Congress, how did they ever form a Federal Reserve? It says Congress shall coin money and regulate the value thereof. And they've turned it over to private bankers. And that is absolutely absurd. That's like turning over anything within Article 1, Section 8 that is required to be under congressional authority, turn it over to the Boy Scouts or the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. They have no authority to do that. And to establish a system, a corrupt system that to control our money and inflation over to private bankers. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It's a group of bankers. And they could undo that very easily and get rid of them. And it's astonishing that the corrupt spending of both Democrats and Republicans have created a system that now eats up every tax dollar for the federal government. Every tax dollar, all our income tax simply goes to pay the interest on their corrupt debt of $36 trillion. Every dollar that we spend on Washington, D.C. simply goes to interest. It doesn't go to infrastructure. It doesn't go to help our country. It doesn't go to anything. And they have to borrow money to continue all their entitlements and foreign aid and all this other the ridiculous spending that they do. It is so corrupt. Everybody ought to look at Senator Rand Paul's list of corrupt spending. It's worse than that. And so if we don't clean house the next 2 years, I'm done. I'm done with the Republican Party.
Well, I've got a fine example for you because I was writing about this yesterday, and I was talking about how we need to be more open-minded than saying, well, it's this party or that party, and I'm going to continue to support the party.
We had neither party. I wish we had no parties.
Oh, we're
correct. We are all in agreement.
Washington called that, and he was correct. A two-party system will be the bane of American liberty.
Yes. So yesterday, an announcement came out on the evening news. I guess it was announced in the morning that there is a new candidate, a Republican candidate for governor. This man has served 3 terms in the House, and he's on his 2nd term in the Senate. I don't even remember hearing his name before. It's Nesbitt. He's the minority leader, they call him. Well, what the heck has he been doing? He sure didn't stand up for our rights. And one of the very brief images they showed on the news was him wearing a mask in the Capitol. So you you bowed under the weight of the tyrannical government and the stupidity of the quote unquote science, and then you did nothing to protect our elections or anything else, because if you did, I would be hearing your name and you'd be on Brandenburg News Network on a regular basis, because there's very few who have spoken up. Why didn't he? And he wants to serve as governor? Are you kidding me? That is the reaction I want to hear from the people of Michigan when they hear this guy saying, "Oh, look what all the wonderful things I'm going to do to oppose Whitmer." Bull crap. You should be behind bars. You should be in the court defending yourself for treason.
That's when all of us look at him and say, shut up and sit down. You already failed. We don't need any more failure out of you or anybody else.
That's what I'm talking about. And so then that brought me again to that point of, you have to be willing to go against your quote unquote party candidate. If the Republican Party can't put up anybody who's reasonable, then I'm sorry, they lose out this time around, and they gotta do a whole lot better, or they're not going to have anything, which is fine with me.
Loyalty to parties has been the bane and a big, huge problem, and we could very easily take care of politics in America without any parties whatsoever. And the loyalty to party is more than loyalty to principles of liberty and to the American people. And we've got to get off the party. I don't know why we ever formed parties to begin with. Washington warned us about it, that it would be the bane of American liberty. We've got to get off it. I would love to make all parties illegal.
I would too.
Have them come crashing down. I still say the way the present system is, that the best defense for American liberty is county by county, that we restore the Constitution county by county. We're working at the CSPOA to create constitutional counties, constitutional sheriffs all across America. The sheriffs can conduct investigations against any of these traitors, and very well should. So most of them are a little bit shy of that, or timid, and just don't realize their own power and their own responsibilities. They all swear an oath in God's name to uphold and defend the Constitution, and none of them really know what that is and what responsibility that bestows upon them to take care of the American Republic that God blessed us with in the first place. So I've been pounding the pavement trying to get sheriffs educated and realize that the federal government is not our boss. The states form the federal government, not the other way around. And the sheriffs have got to be the ones standing with their people and deputizing posses and getting the people active in the process. We, the people, the first three words of the Constitution, we have got to be involved in the process. We must have a relationship with our sheriff and get him to understand his responsibility and his role in preserving our God-given American Republic. And that's what I spend full time on. My wife and I have dedicated our lives to this. I just got back from Kansas. I go to Wisconsin in a couple of weeks. But this has got to be bigger, better, and faster right now. And so we invite all of you, everyone listening to this, to join us at cspoa.org. Become a part of the solution. Become a part of the process that gets us back to our constitutional foundation in a peaceful and effective manner. If the sheriffs aren't involved, if we, the people, aren't involved, it's not going to happen.
What are you doing to actually, what's the process for making counties constitutional? Are you working just with the sheriffs, or is there more to it?
County commissioners have to be involved in that. So
you're literally going to every part of it.
Yes. And actually that we do have a fundraiser. You just saw the badge. These badges right here, if you see that badge right there.
Hold it up again.
It's a pure leather wallet, a trifold wallet, just like detectives use. It's the exact same company. That is a pure bronze badge. It says CSPOA Posse Constitutional USA, and I had it upside down, but these sell for $760. We'll send you a copy of our Supreme Court case. I sued the federal government when I was sheriff, and that's the case right there. Everyone should get that, but anybody who buys the badge, we'll pay for the shipping. We'll send you a copy of the Supreme Court case, and that's the most powerful 10th Amendment case in the history of America, and we're proud of that case. Sheriffs did that, sued the Clinton administration. We beat them, and we lived to tell about it, and it's the most powerful case that you could ever imagine, written by Justice Scalia. And if we would just follow the Constitution, and we could use this as a means to show that in fact, Scalia quotes, the federal government is not our boss. He quotes it that way. He says it. We have held, however, that states are not subject to federal direction. It proves they're not our boss. We are their boss. We formed them, not the. And so we've just got so much work to do, and that is the bottom line with what you're saying, Donna, because to undo all of this corruption and to hold people accountable, that is a mountain of work that we've got to do. And you keep saying that, I keep saying that. We've just got so much work to do. We don't have time, and it's too big of a risk to do this pomp and circumstance of an inauguration. We don't need another victory lap. We need to get busy. We need to work, and we need to protect Trump and his family. And to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue with all your family and cabinet, not a good idea.
That's insane. It's insanity.
He should have a very tired hand from all the writing that he needs to be doing.
Exactly. Good point.
Sheriff Mack, I appreciate you. We have a lot of mutual friends, and we've never actually met in person yet. But I appreciate you. I was going to ask you a couple of questions as we went along here, but you've already answered them all. So not that I need to know the answer, but I was going to bring up the posse comitatus and the constitutional role of the sheriff as such. And I appreciate everything you're doing.
I mean, he has every sheriff in this country has the authority to form a posse. Some have done it. Well, Sheriff Glenn Hamilton is a great example of it. Mm-hmm. We helped President Trump get rid of Sheriff Chad Chronister was being selected to be the head of DEA. He's one of the worst, if not the worst, sheriff in America. He's from the Tampa area, Hillsborough County. And he arrested a pastor during COVID for having church. He's also very DEI. He's woke. He's pro-gun control. Tries to claim that he's a Republican. I guess that just proves it doesn't matter what party you are. And he's very corrupt. And I got a hold of Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon got this information in front of Trump. Trump thanked us for helping get rid of him. And on the other hand, we have Sheriff Glenn Hamilton, who Pastor Caleb Cooper went to him a couple of years ago during COVID, the COVID farce and lie. And he said, we're not going to close our church down because the government doesn't run our church. Jesus Christ runs our church. And he says, I want to know, Sheriff Hamilton, what you're going to do to protect us. And he said, if I have to go to jail myself, I will do everything in my power to protect you and your congregation. And sure enough, the state police came to shut him down. And Sheriff Hamilton confronted him, not violently, not emotionally, but he simply told him, I have deputized every single person in this church. They are under my authority, and they will remain open. The state police left, never came back, and Pastor Cooper never shut down one single second of any Sunday. He stayed open the entire time because he had a sheriff that had the courage and creativity to do his job.
Amen.
And that's what we want every sheriff doing.
That's right.
COVID really proved the mettle of a lot of people.
And guess what? Sheriff Hamilton had our training more than twice. So, it helps to get trained. You can't be saved in ignorance. You can't be free in ignorance, just like Jefferson said. If you expect to be ignorant and free, you expect what never was and what never will be. And that's one of the biggest problems we have because every one of our politicians are ignorant or corrupt.
That's right. That's right. Well, I got to go. I got to get to my crew, guys.
All right.
It's been a pleasure, Sheriff. I'm sure I'll see you soon. You're going to be up in our neck of the woods eventually.
I got to head out pretty quick too.
I've got another question to ask though before you guys leave here. That's important. Okay. How can we help you because I interviewed probably a third to a half of the sheriffs in the state of Michigan, and the answers were absolutely abysmally pathetic.
Right.
I only had a couple of them that were good. I mean, these guys, not only do they not know their job or their role, they just aren't willing to even look at it or know, because they're all, kiss and tail out there. They want to get elected, and that's the problem.
Right.
How do we get you in Michigan and to help educate the sheriffs here? How do we help do that as the citizens or the people of Michigan?
Our plan, no, you're right. We have some real good ones. One of the best sheriffs in America is from Berry County, Michigan. Dar's
a good friend of mine.
But the thing of it is, if we get the ones that have already been educated and converted to America and converted to the Constitution and converted to the oath, and we get all of those sheriffs to invite and help reach out. It's kind of like fellowship, and we reach out to these other sheriffs who, most of them are good people. They just aren't educated enough, and they're too shy about, how I can get reelected, and they're mostly concerned about their pension and their pay and their next election. If we can get them dedicated to the cause of liberty instead of to their own selfish money, and get them around other sheriffs who are already doing this. We have a strong nucleus of about 300 sheriffs who are strong constitutional sheriffs. That's only 10%. We need at least a third. So we need about another 700. And so if we can get the funding to get this national movement going and have a national conference and get the other sheriffs to invite them, and we literally pay the sheriffs to attend. We pay them an honorarium. We pay them a per diem, call it what you want. But when sheriffs get their butts in the chair to our training, and they get to rub shoulders with these other constitutional sheriffs, it will happen. But I spend all my time doing 10 sheriffs here and 7 sheriffs there and 13 sheriffs here and 40 sheriffs here. We don't have time to keep doing that. And we really need to raise the money. If we could get funded and raise a couple of $1 million and have this national conference and get all these other sheriffs working to get other sheriffs there, I believe it'll be the best opportunity for us to really make this happen. Look, folks, I'm not about bringing that money to me. It's not coming to me. It's got to come to a national conference. And we've got the Claremont Institute that wants to do this. We've got other organizations that want to do this. They realize that the sheriffs are the solution. And the sheriffs, just as Sheriff Hamilton showed us, it's a peaceful and effective process. And it's about the only one that's left that's peaceful and effective. We've got to engage these sheriffs. We've got to give them a chance to get trained. And we've got to get them around other sheriffs who are already there.
Thank you so much. I really want to thank you so much for coming on this morning, because I'm going to tell you, it was awful nice to hear yesterday. I'm glad I called you, because when I heard you speaking out, I was like, thank you, God, that, sometimes you feel like you're the only one out there who's actually screaming from the rooftops that this nonsense needs to stop. Yeah. And just because it's accepted policy. And when you said it, I was like, I got to call you, because it's just been such an honor to know you.
Well, if all of your followers want to join us, please do go to cspoa.org, cspoa.org, make a donation, do whatever you can to join us, become a part of our posse so that we can train you to be part of your sheriff's posse. So it's going to be we the people. We've got to be part of this. We've got to be part of the solution.
Love it. Just love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I know you and Bill need to leave. Probably Karen and Rolf and I'll sit on here for a little bit, but whenever you want to sign off, go ahead and sign off, and we're just going to continue on.
I've got to run. I've got a big full day today. So thank you so much. God bless you. And God bless America, and God bless President Trump. We need to pray over him and pray for his safety. And I sure hope he does some real big changes on Inauguration Day.
I do too. Thank you. So, wow, that was really nice that he came on today. So nice. Well, thanks for being on today, Bill. That was amazing. And it's just crazy how everything just kind of fit together. When God brings things together, it just kind of fits, the what people talk about. You can tell that the Holy Spirit prompts us and moves us all in one direction when we follow God. It's amazing. So if you need to leave, I get it.
Yep. Yeah. Got to get my crew going. We're doing framing today. So you want to talk about how things fit together? That's my entire day today is fitting things together.
Hey, you didn't, I don't know if you saw, okay, one thing I got to show you this is really cool. So you want to talk about fitting together. So I'm pretty excited about this because you guys know I like to build things, right? So let me see if I can show you.
I saw it. I showed it to my husband. I said, "Look what they did."
Okay, this is really cool. Hang on a minute. And
I think he kind of rolled his eyes, like
I gotta tell you,
starting to get to know.
I am into I am into everything that bores the heck out of everybody. But fundamentally, I like to build. And this, if things go down, what do you need? You're gonna need things like socks, right? So this is kind of cool because we have a 3D printer, and said one of my sons will print things off on a 3D printer. We're all into that. Bill has one, Ralph has one. Okay, we're nerds.
3D
And
printers are awesome.
3D printers are awesome. So at any rate, this is what we were able to work on and get working yesterday. It's a replica 3D printed of an old circular sock making machine. And this is just cool. Check this out. Isn't that fun?
I can
There's a
see
lot that
people
goes
watching
into
it. You're just watching it for a long time because it's kind of mesmerizing.
Well, it really is. And, you can sit there and watch that thing and we're turning the crank there on it because you turn a hand crank to move it around. But I figured that if you got really good at this, it would be about 1 minute per sock.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It may be a little bit more than that to finish it off because you got to sew the toe together and that sort of thing. But you could probably crank these things out. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I got friends who have sheep. I got people that I know have alpacas, and I'm like, now I got to figure out how to spin the yarn, because if things go down and we don't have all this stuff, this is how we always talk off the grid stuff. You got to know how to do rudimentary things. And if you don't, you better know somebody who has a circular sock knitting machine. So I honestly,
and people don't realize the military importance of that during World War I. How those were absolutely part of the military supply chain. Those home circular sock machines that they distributed to help combat trench foot.
So you know what I'm going to do? This is going to become like one of my issues. We need to have more people around the state that can actually produce socks, know how to run these things, and claw back all of this stuff that's gone to China and have the industry start up again as cottage industries. Every single person out there should be able to have a skill. Now, everybody here on this thing, because we're all friends, we all have lots of skills. If you knew the skill set sitting before you right here, you would literally be shocked at the amount of skill that's sitting at the table right here on this show. You would be totally shocked. So what we need to do, though, is we need to expand this and have people in every county, in every community, and bring it back locally, all of this, whether it's gardening, canning, gunsmithing, sock making, knitting, spinning, all of this sort of thing. Because what happens if the supply chain goes down, which I believe it's gonna, I'm praying to God it does. God, knock this thing right apart into 5 million unrecognizable pieces. We can rebuild it again. The only people that are really going to be in trouble, it's going to be the globalist parasite class, the politicians, the fundraisers that sit at the top. They're going to be all kinds of messed up. The rest of us are going to say, hey, you can do this, I can do this, you can do that. Let's stand together in our community and serve the people in our community, and then train more of them to be more like us nerds.
We'll make your socks and protect your community from tyranny.
That's right. We're going to make socks and sweaters and all that sort of thing, and make sure that you're warm and comfy and have food on the table and all that good stuff. Better know a farmer. That's all I can say.
All right, y'all. I got to head out.
All right. See you, Bill. Thank you.
See you
Bye,
later.
Bill. Thank you.
That was really fun having Sheriff Mack on.
Yeah, you fit right
Yeah.
into the conversation today. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to keep playing this while we talk because it's just kind of like
It's like a more practical version of the lava lamp.
That's right. Only you can actually produce a product. And
You sit and stare at it all day.
if you've priced out yarn lately, we're going to have to do something different here because yarn has gotten just unbelievably expensive. All right, we're going to play it again because it's just fun to watch. And so as we perfect these things, it's actually kind of complex you've got to get all of the adjustments correct on it. So Ralph, you have one of these too. It's kind of complex, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I've actually also got an antique one from World War I era. Cause yeah, I wanted to be able to make socks too, you know. Like I said, that was a critical component of World War I in that they could not produce enough socks to keep the soldiers from getting trench foot. And in the US and Canada, and I believe the UK as well, they had programs to distribute sock machines to the women that had stayed home from the war, so that they could contribute to the war effort. They distributed a ton of those sock machines to them and gave them yarn and basically said, if you make X number of socks for the military that are up to military standards, then you get this machine free and clear. And it was actually kind of a huge, hidden but huge part of World War I.
Well,
and
this is what needs to happen as people, because they don't even know how to put a business together. Like I could do, if I had enough hands, I could do like, I can't even tell you how many businesses I could do in a day, because there's better ways of doing everything. And I enjoy doing that and building, but most people can't even figure out how to, as you said, the funding. So in order to start cottage businesses or encourage actual small business, get rid of the SBA. What a bunch of nonsense. And the whole thing with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Do you understand how much money laundering goes through any of these state organizations? There's nothing that includes we the people. They're only giving it away to the public-private partnerships. La la la. The code word for saying China and anybody that's involved in economic takeover. So here you go, guys. This is another skill to have. This is I started this. It's a 5 needle. There you go. You want to talk about coordination. Knitting on 5 needles is some coordination, I got to tell you. But
I can handle the 1 needle of a crochet.
Yeah. So decided I better tackle some of these things so that all of these old skills aren't lost, you know. But so what's the next thing, guys? What else are we going to tackle as far as for figuring out besides, here we go. We're going to do it again. Yay. Sock machines. We need to have some more cottage industries that we start up.
Yeah. I'm already thinking, hey, shoot, we're like halfway through winter and I haven't completed my projects for the winter yet. But before long, it's going to be spring and I have to start thinking about whether we're going to be working on any kind of vegetables and herbs in our garden, because it didn't go so well last year. Do I want to try it again and improve upon what I learned? Do I want to just focus on the rest of my garden? Do I want to, when are we going to, I have records every year when we purchase our meat birds. Maybe we need to start them a little earlier so we can make sure to get a lot of them in and get them canned up before long. So I already started thinking about those things, and currently the hens are enjoying the meat bird pen because it's wrapped with plastic on the south side, and it's a nice, warm, cozy place for them to hang out right now. They're starting to lay eggs.
There you go.
That's good to see. Finally, we're starting to get eggs again, but I have to get out there a couple of times a day now because they're cracking in the cold.
Yeah, that I've got to get my beehives set up because we'll start getting the new hives, the bees in May. I love doing bees. Bees are just cool.
There's a class coming up this weekend on bees, several hours long.
Where is it?
It's I don't know. I don't know if I can look it up. I saw it on
It's a good start,
Facebook.
but there's a lot to learn in bees.
Yeah, I think it's in Muskegon County somewhere, but I'm not sure where.
Could be. I've got my bee guy that I buy bee supplies from, like hives and that sort of thing. He does classes, and you do need to go to classes to find out how to do this. And you really this year, let's see. I'm gonna see if I've got my. Oh, this is kind of a cool book. I've got a. It's amazing. It was right there. It was very expensive actually. Honeybee biology and beekeeping. Kind of a cool book. Hard one to find, and a very like the ones that Bill always recommends. But this is kind of cool because it goes through, everything you could possibly want to know about bees and their behavior. They've got charts and diagrams. So I have to, this year I'm going to put more of a schedule together to manage the bees so that it's week by week on what you need to do. And just so everybody knows, if you decide to do bees, make sure you put smoke on them at night, because you know what happens if you don't? Well, they go commando and they crawl into your suit, and then you kind of look like a crazy person as you're covered with bees trying to get them out of your hair.
How would you know that?
That is experience talking. I'm just telling you right now. But you think you're going to be real smart with some of this stuff, and you're going to learn. You're going to learn by making mistakes, but that's okay. You do that with everything, including stock machines. You just keep going and tinker with it until you get it figured out. Another thing that I think that I want to look into is getting a still, because I want to try to work on making alcohol, ethanol, and see how well we can figure out how to make some ethanol, because there's better ways of doing this, and all of it can be done locally. That's why they wanted to control the petroleum industry, to stop people from having independence and being able to make their own fuel to run their tractors and their cars and that sort of thing. You can do it because ethanol is the same thing as basically vodka.
Yep. And it used to be that pretty much all engines would run on ethanol just fine. They didn't have to be exclusively gasoline. And still, a lot of modern engines will run perfectly fine on ethanol. They'll run perfectly fine on methanol that you can cook out of wood. And that those skills and that knowledge has been lost and propagandized into, we have to be dependent on these supply chains.
Same thing with methanol coming from or methane coming from, say, a septic tank. Sean Starry's been talking about that too. He heated his home for 2 years off of a septic tank, and how he did it was absolutely brilliant. So all of these things that everybody's afraid of, it's like if the grid goes down, all right, guess what, guys? Welcome to summer camp. We're going to learn some new skills, and it's going to be okay as we watch this whole global crime syndicate choke and die a painful, miserable death. It's going to be awesome. But I think that all of these things we need to do, I'm thinking about trying to weld up a framework for Over the Bees this year. I was going to do it out of wood, but I think I'm going to do it out of metal, and because I've already got a frame around it. But I want to do some welding and weld that all up. Another thing would be a cold frame. I've been studying underground greenhouses. Did you know in Michigan we can actually grow oranges?
Really?
Yep. You can grow oranges. There's a lot of things. Since we're all friends and we all kind of work together on projects, guess what the summer's going to look like?
I know a lot of people are fond of the idea of a lemon tree. I've started to wonder about it because I keep seeing it cropping up on certain Facebook groups that I'm in. And I thought, well, I don't know anything about it, and maybe it's a doable thing. Maybe it's just a challenge that people like, or maybe they like the idea of producing their own lemons. But yeah, I've seen there's a show I like to watch called The Homestead Rescue, and I get all kinds of ideas on that show. One of them is on gardening. They always have people trying to raise their own garden, of course, on a homestead, but in different areas with different challenges, they have different solutions. And one of them has been an underground garden or greenhouse where they sink it so the ground helps to stabilize the temperature.
I tell you, there's you know, you can do a lot of stuff with geothermal in order to stabilize. And if you put things underground, it's saying there's a lot of energy here that people don't even realize that we have, that we don't have to be on their grid. The biggest problem I have with most of the things that come from a grid situation, like electricity, you got to burn petroleum to get it. I don't know why people aren't getting this. The same thing with wind energy. Wind energy is an abysmal failure. The only thing that it works for is the globalist, for them to siphon money off of it. And this is going to be about a land grab. That's all it's about. They can't even keep the coolant in the nose cone of those things sealed up, and it's worse than Freon for the environment. So don't tell me that this is a green energy. It's not. And the same thing with solar and the you know what, in Michigan, they kind of put on hold that 400 acres, and the DNR is getting held accountable. Now, I wrote a resolution this week through the Taxpayers Party, which is a Constitution Party, which we're going to send out to all of them. You should see the responses we get from our public functionaries who don't want to be told what to do by, how dare us, we the people. This is a great one, and I put in all sorts of things that have that will have standing. And I really think that once we give them a notice like that, we have the right to sue them also personally, and that's the plan. So if you want to see what we're putting out there, when we get it completely finished and approved, then we'll put it on the Constitution Party, the Taxpayers Party site for Michigan, USTPM. And also, if you go there, USTPM.org, you can sign up for our mailing list. And we're going to be restructuring this entire party to be kind of like a party non-party. It's going to be really interesting. Talk about breaking the norm. I hope I go down in everybody's mind, at least the ones that know me. I don't want to be famous. It's a dumb pursuit. I would like to be in obscurity, but anybody that knows me, I would love to be known as the person that breaks all the rules. Every single rule, break them all. Because and I don't mean the lawful ones, I mean the unconstitutional, just doing it the way is being done and nobody questioning it. I hope I'm on the spearhead of that, of having everybody question it and saying, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. So the Constitution Party in Michigan is the U.S. Taxpayers Party. We are going to be breaking all the rules, and what you see coming up is going to be kind of shocking. If you want to be involved in it, I'm not asking you for membership. I'm not even asking you for membership fees. I'm not going to ask you for money, because we're adamantly opposed to all of this. All of it needs to go away. It needs to be about the things that we love, not just raise money to 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 ask you to come to do this, to waste your time and your resources on nothing.
So somebody else can have a celebratory ball.
That's right. To sit there and do another freaking victory lap when we haven't even crossed the finish line. It's ridiculous. So if you go to USTPM.org and sign up for the newsletters, and we don't put a lot of them out because there's just not that many of us that are actually working, and we're all overworked, but we do what we can do. But I tell you, all of the resolutions that I started them, that's what I've been doing, is writing resolutions. I would love to hear from everybody of what would you like to have a resolution written on and us to go after that you want to direct us on. You can get a hold of me. Everybody knows how to get a hold of me. I've made it pretty easy for everyone. I want to hear what you want as a resolution. I can write them. I can write them all day long. I love writing resolutions and putting the law into the resolutions to demand that we have the change that we want, the fundamental changes. I have little respect for people that show up at meetings and just want to run for office. That happens all the time. They're not willing to do the work, but they want to have our stamp of approval to run for office, to make it easy for them so they can show up and have a party to run on. It's the way the third party works. The minor parties work. And it's great because we have ballot access. It'll never happen again. It will never happen again because we have too much apathy from the American people to get another party on the ballot. There's too much pushback against the Republican traitors and the Democrat traitors. Too much pushback. So, but join us in here. Maybe I'll just pull this up. I'll get rid of this guy. Diddly-dee, 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 which is cool.
I
And,
sent you a meme by text.
oh, did ya?
Yeah, I saw it yesterday. I think it was kind of late, so I didn't want to text it. And I thought, well, I'll get it to you guys on Friday for.
Okay, we have a sucky our website. Just so you guys know, it sucks, but we're working on it and trying to make it actually serve people. So it's ustpm.org. You can go down here and you can go, become a member. I'm not asking anybody to be a member because we may be changing that actually. So, because we don't want to be about membership actually, and we don't really want to be about anything. We need to see our counties and such. But if you go here at the bottom and you hit ding, 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 go to newsletters, ding, 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 go to press releases and put in your name and your email and subscribe. It will take you right to us. And as I publish this, because it is in fact me publishing this stuff, as I publish it, as I write it, bring it in front of the board to go over it. And we are making changes to make it, bills involved in it and make it more constitutionally compliant, to hold people accountable. You can actually get these things and say, hey guys, guess what? Perhaps you're the only ones that are holding to the Constitution. Oh, what a great idea! How about if we help you and pass this information on? I'd be like, yes, perfect. That'd be wonderful. Let's do this thing, not for money, but for honor, for integrity, and for all those things that we say that we believe in. This is how you do it. No money involved in it. If you're coming for money, you're out of luck. We don't have any money. Zero.
When we're all working together on this, we can do great things and the load is less. Just like the saying of the group of gnomes who are all electricians. Many hands make light work.
Yep. You're so bad. Get that dad energy in here, right? You're so bad. So bad. All the dads out there are laughing. So, okay, let's just bring on the toxic masculinity and the dad jokes. It's all good. So, well, guys, I'm ready to move on to the day here today. And I've got a lot of things that I've actually got a fish farm too that I'm working kind of on. Do you know that we had fish farms in every single county and a lot of the communities in the state of Michigan, and almost all of them are gone. They've destroyed that and made it pretty well untenable to run. So I'm working on that too.
Nice.
Underground greenhouses, fish farms, sock machines, welding, and that's what I like doing. I freaking hate politics. It's like when I got asked to run, it was like, are you out of your mind? It's like, I hate this. I hate these people. I've met some very good people in politics, but the whole system we just need to be done with this. There's better ways of doing this, and we need to go back to what worked. So that's going a very long way.
Another project I have in mind for this year, maybe in the spring, is a hand pump. I want a water well with a hand pump on it, so that
I can help you.
Yep.
Sandpoint. Keep going. I'm just looking it up.
that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important too. Is here you go. Let's see. Keep pumps, deep well pumps for sale, ground pumps, Northern Tool. Okay, well, thank you, Ralph. He just made it real easy and put a good source in the thing, so I didn't have to do it.
So these guys make great manual pumps for wells.
Do they have the sand points in there that you can just pound in the ground?
That I don't know.
So
These are more designed for a pre-drilled well, I think, but they've got ones for both deep well and shallow well pumps.
if you have the equipment, you're not caught with your pants down. That's all I can say.
Have you ever tried what do they call it? The water, what's the term? Water witching? Is that the word?
Yeah, you do it with, I was taught when I was a child how to do that with willow.
Did it work?
It, in fact, appears to. Not sure how I feel about it, but I will leave that there based on who taught me.
That's fair.
How's that? You know, a lot of things. Okay, here, Sandpoint pitcher pump kit, water. I know I can't say anything about this, but we're gonna. Oh wow, they got like a really rudimentary site. They got to be great. Look at this. Check this out. When somebody looks like they're a nothing, they're a something. I'm going to tell you that right now. Check this out. They don't have links and such on. This is amazing.
They're actually working.
They're actually working. They don't have time for this like website nonsense. Oh, that's kind of fun. Off the grid laundry. All right, look at this. Look at this, guys. This is amazing. All right, we're going to click on it. I got to find out what they got here. This is cool. They're not spending their time on nonsense. No, not spending the time on making the website work either. So let's see if we can see
Maybe
what else.
Scroll back a little bit.
Now that it's, I don't think that it's. Now let's see. I'll let the tech guy. Oh yeah, okay, tech guy. Thank you for giving me a little coaching. Here you go. So there you go. Pump pitcher used with Sandpoint. Well, can provide water with all electricity. $228. Is that it? Guess what, guys? 3 gallons of water a minute can be driven into all types of soil.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, guess what? See what I'm talking about? Go to a website where it looks like this. Right there. There's your website. That's your website coaching moment right there from Donna Brandenburg. Get the guys that look like they're a nothing. They're probably going to be a something. Let's see. We've got, wow, they got all kinds of stuff in here. This is cool. I want to see their laundry. That's another thing I'm obsessed about, is doing laundry when you run out of everything.
Uh-huh.
How are you going to wash your clothes if there's no water?
You're going to wash your clothes if there's no soap.
How are you going to wash your clothes if you don't have any buckets or anything to wash in?
I think there's a lot of people too that no longer know how to make soap, and even the people that do know how to make soap, there's a lot of people that know how to make soap, but they only know how to make soap using ingredients like glycerin and stuff. Where do you get that? You know, how are you going to get that if you need to make soap from nothing? Do you know how to saponify oils? Do you know where you're going to get those oils to be able to saponify them?
Ooh, that's a big word. You want to explain it to everybody?
Taking lipid molecules from oils and fats and stuff, and breaking them, generally using an alkaline material like lye, or something alkaline, breaking those molecules apart to turn the oil into a soap.
Okay. See, I want to go back to this while you're explaining this. Look, they've even got installation instructions here, and Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to installing Sandpoint wells. This is cool. All pumps include. Oh, out of stock until the end of November. Well, we're past that, maybe. Is that this November or next November? I don't know. You can't. I'm going to call them because this is a website that looks a little bit unmaintained.
Might be November of 2001. We have no idea.
No idea right now because the links don't work, but it's a great idea. So what do we got? We got it from, it is a, let's see, Merrill, was I reading? Okay, we can find this. I can tell you that right there. We're going to find this, and this is going to be great. You might just buy one, just have it on hand. You know, you'd be better off putting your money into something like that than going to these balls. Quality Merrill Manufacturing of Storm Lake, Iowa. Hey, you know what? You can do anything in Iowa. You know what Iowa is? You have any idea what Iowa is, guys?
A nation equal state.
No, it's the shoot, shovel, and shut up capital of the world. You laugh. You're laughing.
Do they
Yeah,
have
hey,
a train station?
Hey, I think we're, the
Now we're getting somewhere. Here's
You
the
guys
web.
aren't watching. You
before-
guys aren't watching Yellowstone. The
watch
Yellowstone fans know
TV.
what I'm talking about.
I don't watch TV. How can I possibly
No,
watch
I was
TV with
teasing.
all the nerd crap I do?
The
When we
train
talk-
station is. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's the term that they use when they're gonna dump a body. There's a county that has nobody living there, so they have no sheriff, they have no juries, but they do have a big valley that they drive along the highway and they dump their bodies down in a valley. So there's nobody can. It's over like a cliffside, so nobody can prosecute them even if they discovered where their victims lie. And so when they're going to take somebody there who doesn't know what's going to happen to them, it's a lot like The Godfather. You're like, oh, we'll take you to the train station, but there's no train station.
Got it.
No, what I was going to
Now,
say
if you
is
hear that term, you know.
like you said, this kind of thing is a worthy thing to put your time and effort and money into. And like we said before, civil defense used to be a huge civic duty that was promoted in this country, and we've gotten away from that. And because this is not just about you, this is about being able to provide for you, your family, not be a burden on any of the systems that do survive any kind of an event, but also potentially your neighbors and or your community. This is about making sure that if bad things happen, you can keep there's a lot of things this is about, but just one of them as far as the value of this patriotically is that you don't have to be a burden on any of the central systems to have them come and rescue you.
Well, the point being is, are we here to serve this world, or are we here just to be little dependents and little baby birds with our mouths open and being just basically as you said, a burden? Do we want to be adults? Do we want to act like adults and take care of the tribe? I do. I don't want somebody taking care of me. That would be so, I watch people that have that mentality, that they think that they're really all that in a bag of chips when they get to sit at the table, when they don't produce anything and just go, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this. I have it all the time when I hire somebody, and people think that what it means to be a manager or a leader is to tell people what to do. No, it's really not. It's to get out in front of everybody and show them how to do it and prove that you can do it and instruct them how best to do it. That's not, leader doesn't just sit there and point and tell people what to do. That's
when a fire happens, do you want to be the one to be able to carry people away from it, or do you want to be the person that's carried? Exactly.
And that starts when we talk about like off the grid preparedness. I think it's the first question that all of us should ask. It's not, what, I've got enough for me. I've heard that. I've got enough for me for this. Really? Who's going to help you protect it, Scooter?
Yeah, you got enough for somebody else to take it from.
Yeah. And unless you build a network and a team, and you can get people that can work together and not look at it of who can I exploit or take from, but how can I help the most amount of people and build a team with a diverse skill set to be helpful in a catastrophic situation. When you look at all the war zones, it's always about looting and taking. Low IQ individuals loot. They can't think past the next sandwich to stuff in their face. A real smart person looks at this and says, okay, we're going to do the things that create sandwiches. We're not going to just look to take sandwiches. We're going to make sandwiches, and then we're going to feed not only ourselves, but stabilize the people around us. That's a smart person. Dumb people take.
And the really smart people make socks.
Make what?
Socks.
Yes.
Make
And vodka.
in vodka. And keep bees.
For medicinal purposes, of course.
Hey, you want to see another cool book I have? This is kind of cool. So I like to sew too. I've got a really, I've just done a lot of things. I used to make my own patterns. But this book, this little beauty, is kind of cool because it not only shows you how to alter, if you got nothing, how to alter and make them look good too. Do you know how to sew? If you don't know how to sew, learn to sew.
Because of course, in an emergency, looking good is going to be of paramount importance.
Well, yeah, I mean, you need to be functional, and you also need it to not make you look like a, I don't know, like the Michelin Man.
That
I'm years old. I'm fighting the fluffy all the time. I got to tell you.
So I've tried sewing and I suck at it, but I think it's something that everyone should at least try it so they have even a rudimentary skill, because in the event of supply chain collapse, the terrible quality clothes that we're able to buy right now are not going to last. And, everyone should know how to sew. Everyone should probably know how to knit. Even if you suck at it, you should at least know how, because you may be stuck with nothing but time to be able to fix things at a very slow pace, but by golly, you better know how to do it. Everyone should know how to weld. Even if you suck at it, you should know how to do it. And there's so many of those things that are functional repair things for stuff that used to be made to last. And most of it now that we buy isn't made to last. It's meant to be disposable. And in the event of supply chain breakdown, that stuff that is of poor quality, that is the only option that in a lot of cases that we have for certain new products, it's going to fall apart. We have to be able to both replicate it as well as repair it, or we are very much dependent on those systems.
You know what I got real obsessed about for a while was the Chaka motors that are inside of a washing machine for the agitators. Okay, now what is that? Everybody says. Why would you be interested in that?
Brandenburg, because we're not with the chicken.
Why wouldn't you be interested in that is the better question.
I know. I mean, that's the way it is, right? And it's kind of cool how they're made, because it's like a little shark's tooth that comes out. So the motor goes this way, and then it falls back on the back side of the tooth. And that's where you get that forward and back agitation. It's kind of cool. Look up those motors. It's a fun thing. I can look it up for you, but I'm not going to do it. You got to learn those things yourself. No more baby birds here. So, but that, and then there's a lot of Amish channels that are out there is do what the Amish do. Their fabrics are so different than what ours are in the store. I'm shocked at the poor quality of clothing and construction. It's terrible. They are banking on failure. It's planned obsolescence. That's what they want. So that you have to buy more crap from them. And the reason why the fashion for younger girls is horrible. Okay, it's just horrible. I went to Magic out in Las Vegas a few years ago. It's a big fashion show. And I was there with friends that were buyers, and they asked me to go with them. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go and check this out. Interesting. When they put the clothing for say young girls between the age of say 8 and 16, 10 and 16, the clothing in there, it's all disposable. It's just crap clothing that has some style to it. But for every half inch of length that they eliminate, you want to know why our girls are dressed like 16-year-old strippers with no class whatsoever, trying to show everything they have? It all comes from the fashion industry. For every half inch of fabric that they eliminate from a design, they save millions of dollars. And it's really easy to see the economics on how that economics has changed our society from one that values what we do for other people to being a 6-year-old dancing on a stage. Hey, look at me. I'm going to show everything I have to get your attention because I'm attention starved. instead of purpose fulfilled.
Well, and you want to look at durable clothing. There is an archaeological dig over in, I think it was in Mongolia, where they found. This is going to be kind of in the nerdy history side here, but they found
Which is what we do.
the oldest known pair of pants. Because back along when you start going back in history, you generally have more of like wrapped garments, more akin to like a toga or something like that. So the history of pants is actually somewhat recent, but this was the oldest known pair of pants that they've found. And they set out on a mission to try and replicate this pair of pants so that they could learn all the techniques that were used to make it. And it was a fascinating project to watch. But even then, and this was like, I think this pair of pants is, I think, something like 1,200 or 1,400 years old. And what was kind of unique about it is it was in kind of a desert environment, so the cloth didn't rot away, so they could actually study it. But they had, in making this pair of pants, the people that made it had set out different weaves and different fabric making methods to be able to have like more durable knees, more durable inside of the thighs, because this was a horse riding culture. And so they had all of these areas of these pants that they made to be more durable as truly a work garment. And it was remarkable to see that, and then compare that to modern clothing construction and how incredibly poorly constructed a lot of our modern clothing is in comparison to pants that are like literally over 1,000 years old.
Well, and think about patching things. Where are you going to wear out the first? You're going to wear out knees and elbows. That's why a lot of the suit coats have the patches on the it became a style. It ended up becoming a style, but the style was to protect the garment.
Sure.
But that's why a lot of things have done. If we think about why they were done that way, it's just like, why do we have spaghetti sauce? Why do we have the spaghetti sauce that tastes the way that it does? Because when you plant tomatoes, oregano, and basil together, they help repel the predators of each other. So if you put oregano and basil next to your tomatoes and you intercrop them, the oregano and the basil will keep the predators that normally will eat your tomatoes away. And because they grow together so well, let's just throw them in a pot and see what works, because it's all there. And that's where our spaghetti sauce came from. There's always reasons to it. So that's another thing that everybody should study, is how to do, say, like a hydroponic type growing. It's easy. You can do this stuff, or sprouting, or microgreens. Microgreens are really easy to grow. I've shown you guys all that before. But to be able to do that and grow your own food relatively quickly, and as well as in a small space. In fact, another thing is I found a tower system that I think I'm actually going to buy this thing, because I can make it, but it's going to be just as cheap to buy it already made. You know, they're mass producing these things in massive amounts. When I do that, I'll take pictures of it and show you guys this. But you could literally grow a salad in an apartment, a house, doesn't make any difference, year round, with one of these towers. The only thing I want to work with is I want to find out what's the best soil mix. You know, I'm a farmer, so find the best soil mix to take the weight out of it, help hold in the moisture a little bit, because I think this is important. And I want to work with a wicking system, because when you have let's just say you put a small rope or a thread up into the pot or a tower you make, you could do it out of anything, really. You could probably do it with stacking. And I'm just making this up on the fly here. I'm going to turn into Jonathan Brader, who rigged our elections and made up election rules on the fly. Only we're going to do it as a farmer and think our way through this. If we don't have something in hand, what are you going to do? Well, You could use terracotta pots. You could use plastic pots and nest them in each other and plant around the outside of the rim of the one underneath it. And then if you're really thinking, you drill more holes and put like a small cotton rope up into it or string, and that will wick your water up into the pots and keep your soil moist without drowning your plants. Drainage for plants is one of the most important things you could possibly do. And that way you can conserve how much water you're losing through the air. It makes it more uniform and that sort of thing. You can do the same thing with hydroponics and have a hydroponic system, but then you got to deal with a pump. So you got to make sure you have electricity. But all these things that we need to think about and how we're going to do this when the grid goes down. I'm not afraid of it. I hope you guys aren't either. I found a Amish and a site. I'm not promoting it. I just found it, but there's lots of them out there. Most of this is for quilting. That's just going to be a normal, a normal weight cotton, but we've got lots of colors and cones of thread. Not a bad idea to have some of those around and such. But the clothing that they make their things out of, it's not like something that's going to have a lot of stretch to it. It's going to be more like a denim, something that's really going to last.
You know what would be great if the Amish taught classes on how to do things, because for the rest of us, because they have so much knowledge and skill.
Yeah, because they didn't jump onto the grid and become dependent on the system that was designed to enslave us. Most of this is quilting fabric. That's not what I'm looking for. Quilting fabric isn't. Oh, here's a Amish outlet. Let's check this out. But something that's a little tougher, that will stand up to multiple washings, so you don't have to replace your clothing quite as much. I can find some resources for that.
And they make really good maple twist.
You went there, didn't you? You went there. So there's a store pretty close to where Karen lives, and I go up there every once in a while because I do some business with the Amish up there. They have a farm. They have good supplies and such. And there's a store up there, and it is called
Whispering Pines.
Whispering Pines. I'm going to tell you, if you ever get up to Fremont and you go to this store, whatever's in the case next to the cash registers is evil. It is so evil. You cannot believe how good this stuff is. It's like I go in there and I look like a little raccoon stuffing my face with whatever. Oh my God, this stuff's good, right? It's amazing. And I call Karen and say, hey, Karen, when you go there, you got to get these little maple twist thingies because they're filled with some sort of a custard, and you're going to get fat with them.
Have you ever tried their lemon bars?
I have not, because I'm too busy stuffing the maple things in my mouth.
It's the same case, very lemon, a lot of sweet in it, and they pack it. Boy, it's not like your average bakery donut. It's got a lot of lemon cream inside of it, and boy, I usually can't get through one at one sitting because it's too much. My husband tried a bite of it once and regretted it because he can't handle the sweet as much as I can. And they have what are those pies called? It's like cream pies. They look kind of like gigantic Oreos, but better. Again, lots of filling. Yeah. But if you've got a sugar craving, they got you set up pretty good.
Yeah,
and if you want to make shoes or have some good cowboy boots, Troyer's right across the road. I hadn't been there for a long time, and I finally went. And they have a gardening section. They got a lot of leather, etc., etc. They have a lot packed in that little shop.
Did I tell you that I bought an antique sewing machine for leather and shoes?
I think you did.
I'm
And
really
you talked about making shoes before.
I'm really excited about this. Single stitch, one stitch at a time. And that's another thing. So people say, what are you going to do after politics? I'm kind of always doing it. You know, I multitask. You multitask, people. You can do anything. So, well, guys, are you ready to go on to your day? Since you made mine today, I love you guys so much, and I love the time. Somebody said to me the other day, they were bringing up the two of you specifically, and this person said, wow, are they ever good friends? I'm like, you have no idea. I am so honored to call the two of you friends. You are true friends. I wish everybody in the world had developed friendships like the ones that we have. I know no matter what, the two of you, if I called for any reason, you would be there and I would be there for you. And we would work on things together, not just sit and talk, though we can talk for hours. We never run out of things to talk about, but we actually work on things and hang out together. Karen and I have done canning together. Ralph and
I was gonna say, when you go to do your welding, that's something I've never learned about. My husband knows how to weld, I think. I'm pretty sure he does, but he doesn't do much of that.
I know how to solder pretty well because I used to do some stained glass window stuff, and I did the old school with. I'm old. Everybody's like, "How can you know how to do this?" Because I'm old and I get bored quickly. So it's like with the old lead came and actually making windows out of soldering together, pieces of glass and cutting it. And that's a good place to start, is to learn how to solder and then go to welding, so you can see, the process of.
I like the idea of learning. There's some things like basic construction stuff. Like, I never learned the basics. I can, drive a nail and a screw, put a washer on it.
Did you see the construction video that I posted the other day?
What did you post?
I posted a construction video that was on framing a house. And the reason I was so enamored by that guy that was doing it is amazing. I was enamored by it because he would go through a bunk of wood and he would just sit there and cut everything to length. And the way he did it was so efficient that it was a little shocking to me. I've never seen anybody as efficient as this guy was in framing in a house, and the construction techniques he used. He was using frame or foam in the he used foam in the stairs to make sure there was no squeaking in the stairs. I mean, as quick as he went, he paid attention to those things that are really elements of good construction. It was the efficiency of it, his ability to plan the next steps ahead. That's the one thing that I see in the barn, because I've been getting up early to do barn tours and such before this, but to watch a group of people work to find the efficiencies so that you're the quickest way possible you can save your steps. So he was doing it. Like, for instance, in our barn, if we fix up the mash for some of the older horses that need their food mashed, which means you put water in the food because they need the extra water to help digest it. If you do it the night before and all you got to do is shove it in the stall while you're feeding the other horses, it really, anytime you break from a process to do something else, you slow yourself down. This guy was amazing in how he framed in the house. I got to think of the name of it, and I could put it up. You know what? Talk amongst yourselves. I'll see if I can find it, because it was kind of
yeah. For soldering, I'm more familiar with soldering from the electronics side, and so I haven't done lead. I haven't done stained glass soldering, but the electronics used to be all lead. Now they've gone to different materials, but I still like using lead. I think it flows pretty darn well.
It's probably not a skill that I would find myself needing, really. But, I do like to learn some things.
Yeah, but everyone should learn to weld, though, because that's something that is definitely applicable to everyone. And like Donna said, soldering is a decent place to start because it's a lot lower temperature, and you do learn kind of about how flux works and how melting metal behaves. So that's that's a fair assessment and probably not a bad way to learn.
I think it's
I've been
great.
meaning to. I've been meaning to tell Ralph that when I went over my calendar, I realized that this year my license, my ham radio license, is up for renewal.
Ah, okay.
Last year it
Well,
wasn't as big a deal because I thought, well, I might not need it anymore after this year. The government's going to change everything anyway. But I might have to go through now the next level. I don't know that I can get there, but the basic level, I can probably quiz myself on that and get back in there and just renew that one.
well, you don't actually have to retest to renew your license.
Oh,
It's
I
just like,
don't.
no, it's like $15. You go to the FCC website, and I think it's like $15, and you get 10 years, something like that.
I don't have to test again? I thought I had to test again.
No,
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 Yeah.
only if you want to. Only
It's
if you want to go to the
ridiculous.
next level license.
Their testing is ridiculous. It's like,
Yes.
you know, I went in there and I said, well, how much electronics and do I have to know, or electrical knowledge? Oh, you don't need to know anything. I show up for this 8-hour class and find out that it's just to
Memorization.
to the test. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I was kind of like expecting that we were going to be taught a few things. No.
Yeah, I did the same thing when I went in there because I wanted my ham radio license specifically because I wanted to learn about antenna design. And I thought, okay, I'll go through the ham radio class and I'll understand more about antenna design because it's applicable for other things that I do. No, it's just go in there, memorize the question pool, and then spit back the answers. But that's also something that you go in there, they'll tell you that they do that specifically because they know they can't teach you enough in 8 hours for you to really truly be proficient at it. And so just basically to get through the governmental red tape, the idea there is use your short-term memory, pass the test, and get into the ham radio community and let people actually teach you.
Isn't that a bunch of bureaucratic nonsense, though? It's like, come on.
It is. But
It's like this whole thing is so hypocritical. It's not even funny. And I've got a ham license.
it is, but they're right out there with it that this is nonsense, but we have to do it. And this is the wrong way to learn. And that's why we're doing it this way with a ham and a day class of not even trying to teach you until you get your license and you can get into the community and practice.
Yeah, here we're just going to hand you the answers. You know what? That's what they do in most safety training that I've been involved in. That's why I developed some safety training for the pipeline stuff, because I did it with one of our project managers years ago, because I was like, what in the world are we doing here? We've got guys out here that are just sitting through it and they give them the answers. They're not testing. They don't know. They're not proficient. And so I'm like, somebody gets hurt on my watch. I'm not just going to go along, get along with that. There's a surprise for you. We're going to do things a little differently. And that would include actually training people and making sure they understand the course material. So everybody goes home okay, that nobody goes home in worse shape than they came in. Okay, watch this, guys. This is kind of cool. We'll see. Oh, I'm going to pause it once in a while so I don't get a YouTube strike. Check this guy. Look how he makes those joints. Isn't that cool?
You know, I wonder if he's ever done this before.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think instead of watching Yellowstone, we should watch this kind of stuff. Why don't we live it? You know, I live it with my horses. I don't watch it. Maybe I should. I don't know. I'll shut up now. So I posted the link in Telegram, and here we're going to pause it a minute just to make sure that I don't get a YouTube strike on here. But the reality is that he frames this thing in a 2-story house, and the process, of course, is sped up. Watch it for 39 minutes and watch what he does. But the joints that he makes and how he puts this thing together to actually create a semi-engineered beam. You know, some of the engineered beams that you can buy now are amazing, but he does a lot of sistering of wood and to create structure and such. But the joints he makes are really amazing on how he actually puts them together. Got another guy I like too that builds post and beam construction to everything, like tables, bed frames, and that sort of thing. Absolutely brilliant guy. I love watching him work on this and building stuff because he's so talented. Well, guys, go ahead.
I came across the show recently with about loggers, and it's kind of cool to watch because I just don't know anything about it. And hey, that's part of Michigan's heritage, so I should know a thing or two about it. But they show the 2-man teams that they find these cedars that are worth like 60 grand. And they might be 6-7 feet across, and they're rotten in the center. They're really not safe in the woods if you were to be around them. but they're very good wood, and so they have to plan how they're going to fell it so that they can collect it safely, so that when it lands, it's not going to burst into 1,000 pieces, and it's not going to run into another tree and stick there. If it does any of the things that they don't want it to do, how do they deal with it then safely? It's been really interesting for me to see how dangerous it is and the techniques that they use, and how they handle it when it doesn't go well. That's been kind of interesting too.
It's fun to watch people who are skilled in what they do.
Yeah,
I like watching anybody that's got a skill because you learn even just by watching them. Just sitting there and watching, oh, I never even thought about doing that. You think you're wasting time, but honestly, a lot of times it's just being quiet and watching how they do that, and start stuffing it into the recesses of your brain somewhere that you'll pull out when you least expect that you're going to need it. So, which is
I've
good.
seen your daughter work with her horses before, and it's kind of fun to me because I see things from the dog training perspective in there. It's quite similar in some aspects. And yet she's very expert at the equine aspects that I don't know. So it's entertaining to me and informative to watch.
There's no better horse person in the entire world than my daughter. I can tell you that right now. She was born with that gift. She understands animals as well as anybody I've ever known in my entire life. And it's totally inspiring to watch her work with horses. She's amazing. So I'm glad that you saw that too, because she is.
Yeah.
So, well, boys and girls, it's that part of the show. Let's say a prayer, because I think this week I'm going to ask everyone to spend the week praying for our nation, praying for President Trump, everyone that's in harm's way. And I want to pray for all those people that are in the terrorist cells across the United States. We need to pray for our enemies. That's what God told us to do. We need to be in prayer this week. This needs to be a week entirely devoted to that, no matter what we're doing. And in the Bible, God talks about praying without ceasing, praying for our enemies. But we need to be there in that capacity. Probably, I'm going to tell you right now, it's the most important thing that we can do right now is to seek God, seek his wisdom. Even if everybody tells us we need to do something else, you got to follow what God tells you to do, because the crowd may go in this direction, but you may be the one person that stands in the way of them getting hurt. It's the same thing with horses. Horses run in a herd. They're herd animals, so are people. Well, guess what? One of them jumps off the cliff, they're all going to jump off the cliff. They're kind of like lemmings in that, or do something that's irrational. So be and listen to God. Be that person that God wants you to be, and listen to him, because he's going to teach you how to be really great and not do just what everybody else does. Nothing has ever changed in the world by a crowd. It's always the rebel. It's always the person that questions everything, that says, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't do it. And I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings that I don't agree with you, or that I don't get all upset about things like you want me to get upset about things. No, not going to do it. We're going to do something different and fundamentally change things. And I think that's what we need to do, inspiring each other, standing together. So let's say the prayer. You guys want to pray today?
Oh, I'm good with you doing it.
Karen, you want to pray?
I'll join you.
You want to take
How
pray?
about it? Yeah, I'll start and then you finish. How's that sound?
I love that. That's great.
All right.
Ralph, you want to join in? Go ahead. But we'll go ahead.
Dear Lord and Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. You see the sun is shining, and it's such a blessing to have here in our state. It's been so cloudy and cloudy in many ways, but we always see the joy in our faith. When we are truly faithful, nothing can worry us truly. And the world around us is not feeling so comfortable right now. There's a lot of concern. And if you think in a worldly sense, there's a lot of good reasons for that concern. We want to think in a spiritual sense so that we can be at ease, that we can do what we need to do, thinking with peace and joy and kindness and love, and focus on you. You are the path to all things good. We pray that you would help us to navigate these challenging times. We pray that you keep our president safe. We pray that you keep our people safe. Please protect us from those who would want to cause us harm. Please be with our enemies, those who are thinking about doing that harm, that perhaps they'll have a change of heart and realize that's not the best way to go. And if they do try it, I pray that you'd fail them. Fail that mission. Don't let them hurt people, or keep the damage as minimal as possible so that we can be awake and aware and make the changes that we need to do to protect ourselves and our country, but without as much harm as we can possibly have. We pray that you would keep all those in Washington, D.C. safe in the coming days, and pray that our president will be wise with the use of his time and the money that people expend toward these things. We pray that you would help him to be wise, make all good decisions, and keep him safe if it be your will. Please forgive us of our sins and help us to go about our day in joy and kindness and smiling for all the beautiful things that you've provided for us.
And God, please protect us all, protect all of the American people, and give us the wisdom to be able to see through the deceptions that are perpetrated upon us, and help us to live according to your will, and do what needs to be done to bring about your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven.
Dear Heavenly Father, we want to bring joy to you today in seeing your children do the right thing because we're listening to you. We want to be like you. All those invisible characteristics and qualities that we see in you, we desire them. And we desire them because we want to serve you and because we truly love you, and we truly love the people around us and our nation and this world that you created for us to be in. It's a beautiful place, and we really love it here. We love the beautiful things you created for us to enjoy and the things that we can do with our hands, which give us purpose. We ask that you would show us exactly what to do this day. Show us clearly. Help us to listen to you. And if somebody around us needs help, or that they just need a smile, or to know that they're not alone, and that there is somebody who cares, even when nobody seems to care. We thank you so much for just everything. Sometimes it's hard to even know what to thank you for because there's so much, for Amish fabrics and Sandpoint wells and the technology that went into making all those things, and as well as the information that we can learn. It just makes the world a fun place to learn all of these amazing things, to build, to create, to help people, to rescue people when they've fallen, and those things that teach us patience and long suffering with other people, to fight for those without a voice, to defend those who are being victimized or are helpless to do it. We thank you for the strength that you've given us to stand when everyone around us falls, because if we do, it's only because you give us the strength, by your strength and guidance, to in fact stand when the going gets rough. I ask that you continue to strengthen us. Thank you for the favor that you poured out upon us. I ask you that you would change the hearts and minds of our entire nation. Turn us back to you with grief over the things that we've done that has allowed evil to walk in and steal and steal and pillage and hurt and murder and all these other things that they've created against your people, against your children, against all the children of this world. We ask that we would be pulling together to create a peaceful civilization working towards your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you for Karen. Thank you for Ralph and Bill and Sheriff Mack and all the wonderful patriots. Of course, General Flynn, Admiral Rogers, two top guys on my list there, President Trump and his entire family. We ask that you would surround them. I could just about cry right now because I'm so concerned for their safety, that they would put themselves in harm's way because they think we need it as a leader. We don't. We need them to be safe. We need them to give us a job to do. And we need them to be safe and make the right decisions to protect themselves. And we will stand with them for doing the right thing. We will stand with anyone with absolute honor who will do the right thing for the United States of America and for this world we live in, and turning away and just eliminating all of this evil from human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, the destruction and the murder of human beings. It is wrong on every level. We are repulsed by this. We want your ways here, and we are willing to do whatever it is that you ask us to do. We will do it. Ask us, we will go. Choose us. We will go. We will do what you ask us to do. It's our fault. It is our fault that we got to the position that we're in right now. And now we're willing to step up and say, okay, what do we do to make it right? We love you. You've been a great friend to us. We want to be a friend to you. And we ask for a hedge of millions of angels around President Trump and his family and everyone that stood up to do the right thing for the United States. We ask for a good knock on the head for the rest of us to wake up and do the right thing and become that moral people that you envisioned us to be, to stand against everything that is against you. This war was not against us. This is a war against you. And we want to be there as your children, faithful to the very end, running the race and never giving up, unwavering and unrelentless in our pursuit against evil and those who commit evil, against the innocent and those who stand unprotected alone. Thank you for Jesus Christ and the atonement you've made for our sins, that we can go to you, go right to the mercy seat and call you Abba Father, because you are good to us in all things. You are good. You are always good all the time. We don't have faith in this world or the outcomes that we want. We have faith in you and the ultimate good that comes out of following you, no matter if the path is rough, no matter if it's a smooth path. We give it all to you and commit this day to you, our steps, our words, the works of our hands, and our future. Whatever you determine, we know that you are always good, and we have faith in you in all things. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Mm.
There we go, boys and girls. I hope President Trump is safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I can't go to that inauguration. I've thought about it. I've agonized over it. I can't go. I have tickets. I can't go because I don't want to send a message that he has to do this for us. That is the weakest thing a person can do right now, is expect him to be part of this dog and pony show.
Demand someone else to put their life at risk for you.
That's right. It's not okay. It is not okay. I can't jump into this. It's wrong on every level. And the fact that some people have access but not others is as un-American as anything I can possibly think of. We need to change fundamentally, guys. And this is where the rubber meets the road. It's right now. And we have to make that commitment to stand unwavering. And I'm willing to do it. I hope all of you are too. Ask God today, send me. Send me. I'm willing to go. Unwavering. So, boys and girls, I guess that's part of the show, isn't it? To be that disruptor that Donna Brandenburg is. So, and Karen and Ralph and all of us here. So here we go, boys and girls. Ding, 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 ding. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com because I'm the best non-conceited, who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to talk to the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, in cowboy boots about this in a safe location. Not for me, but for him and his beautiful wife, whom I absolutely adore. I adore Melania. She is, I'm going to tell you what, when I grow up, she's younger than me, but when I grow up, I want to be Melania. She like says all the right words. She's just beautiful and gorgeous. And what a pillar of insulated. Did I say
Trump is insulated.
Oh, he's insulated. Okay. Yeah. What a pillar of beauty and grace and honor and just everything good. I love Melania. I just love her. I'm so honored to live to see the time that we've lived in and the amazing people that are willing to stand for America. What a time to be alive. It's amazing. We see some of the best things and the worst things clearly defined for us. Clear. Choice is clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyhow, so with that said, I think I'll be back tomorrow, guys. So, and it's probably going to be with Karen and Ralph because I don't think I have anybody scheduled on for tomorrow. So it's probably going to be us. It might be. We'll have to see who comes on, who's willing to stand for the nation. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. This is a week to pray in earnest for our president, the rightful president of the United States, for those who stand with him, for every brave soul that's out there that will stand in the way of evil and tell it, get out. You've got no place here. Get out. Anything that's evil, get out. You're done.
Maybe when you tell Trump that you're not coming and why, you should also, you probably have already done that, but you should also invite him on BNN tomorrow.
President Trump, guess what? I would like to invite you. He's given out passes for podcasters like me to come to the White House. I would almost go there for that alone. Gonna say, I'm gonna see what happens here, but I'd almost go and drive there for that just alone because I want to work. I don't want to be in some little pansy prancing poodle. I want to work. I want a job. And I mean a real job, not a fake job, not a show up job and just say something. Give me a job to do. I'll do it. So anyhow, President Trump, this is a formal invite to Brandenburg News Network tomorrow, where we love you and will protect you and ask you to do things in private so that you and your precious family can be safe. There you go.
I nodded just as you did.
Here, we'll do it. And Karen says, So anyhow, got my bro calling here. So guys, have a great day and I'll see you tomorrow. Let's be Americans and walk shoulder to shoulder together. Take this nation back. We're not going to ask permission. We're going to do it. Have a great day.